Chapter 1. I'm here to report safety, not to cut off all romantic ties. Hey, Yun Yenin, I need to tell you something. I have a terminal illness and don't want to burden you. So let's break up. Hey, Xiao Suner, it's me, Qin Feng. I want to tell you that you're a woman. I'm a man, and we're not suitable together because of our different genders. Xiao Wu, I think you're too mature for me. There's a generation gap between us. I'm not talking about age. By the window, Qin Feng finished a series of phone calls and let out a long sigh. 2 hours ago, he was brought here by a dump truck to a parallel world that closely resembles his own, and he became a fresh recruit in a border defense regiment that, in his past life, his dream was to be a soldier. But he was disqualified due to health issues. Now that he could traverse to this place and experience a different life, Qin Feng was quite willing. After all, what man doesn't have a bit of a passionate military dream? However, this version of himself in the parallel universe didn't seem to be very honest. He had quite a notorious reputation outside, the most romantic man in Jiangsu and Zhujiang. Naturally, as an upright young man, Qin Feng couldn't condone the original owner's behavior. He came to be a soldier, yet got involved in so much drama. He had heard that love in the army was like autumn trees. Either it's yellowing or it's green to prevent any complications and to ensure that women wouldn't affect his speed in drawing his weapon. Qin Feng took advantage of the class leader's allowance for everyone to make phone calls home to report their safety. He directly formatted and broke up with those ambiguous girls in his phone. Was he feeling guilty? Of course not. Qin Feng had only just crossed over half an hour AG.SO. At this time, it was best to cut through the chaos swiftly. After all, for him, the passionate military life was the unique romance meant for men. Thus, Qin Feng opened his phone's memo and typed in a message. Don't talk to me about love nonsense. I only want to achieve great things and serve my country. Looking out at the night, punctuated by the camp streetlights, Qin Feng put his phone in his pocket, a smile creeping onto his lips. Regretting joining the army for 2 years, or regretting not joining for a lifetime. In his past life, enlisting had always been a dream he longed for but could not attain. But now, Qin Feng finally had the opportunity for an immersive experience. He turned off his phone screen. Just as he turned around, he suddenly froze. He saw all the new recruits in the class looking at him with a gaze of reverence. Even the class leader, Zhao Pengfei, looked at him with a rather strange expression, as if he had seen a monster. Qin Feng was taken aback for a moment, but didn't show any reaction. He directly handed his phone to Zhao Pengfei. Leader, I'm done with my calls. Zhao Pengfei had many questions he wanted to ask, but when it came to his lips, all he could say was an Just now, the new recruits had just finished class assignments, and each class was preparing to check in their personal items. So he had allowed everyone to call home to report their safety before handing in their phones. After they were done, he would collect their phones for safekeeping. Other recruits were calling their parents to inform them they had arrived at the base. Some called their grandparents or other close relatives. But this kid was an exception that if you have a partner, that's fine. But how come you have so many? And didn't I just say to let everyone call home to report safety? Goodness, that's not reporting safety, is it? That's cutting off all worries and completely saying goodbye to the past. Zhao Pengfei had led many batches of recruits and seen all sorts of young people, but he had never encountered one like this. By the way, what was this kid's name again? He just called out during roll call, but he forgot it in an instant. Soon, everyone had submitted their personal items. After putting their things away with the class leader, they returned to the dormitory. Now, the other classes are still storing their bags. Once they're done, we'll go to the cafeteria for dinner. While we wait, let's introduce ourselves to help me understand you better. Saying this, Zhao Pengfei picked up a notebook and looked at the first recruit in line. Hello, leader. I'm Chun Sanchi from South River. Oh, you're from South River? Hearing Zhao Pengfei switch to a familiar dialect, Chun Sanchi was overjoyed. Leader, you're also from South River? Oh, then we're fellow townsmen. They say fellow townsmen see each other and get emotional. I will. Zhao Pengfei waved his hand, smiling. All right. No need to get emotional. Sit down. From now on, you need to speak Mandarin in the army, got it? And once you're here, treat it like your home. Don't be too reserved. Understood. Chun Sanchi nodded with a smile. Next, Zhao Pengfei turned to a fair-skinned recruit. Hello, leader. I'm Xie Bin from West Guam. My dream is to be a rapper. Rapper? Yes. So, I want to do a freestyle for my introduction. Everyone looked at this kid with curious eyes. In this day and age, rap was still a very trendy novelty. Even Zhao Pengfei rested his chin on one hand, showing an interested expression. Go ahead, please start your performance. Yo, check it out. I'm Xie Bin. I love eating oil cakes. I've been weak and sick since childhood, and my talent wasn't recognized. My parents said I'm missing a nerve in my brain, so they sent me to enlist. Yo, death song, death song. The dormitory fell silent. Everyone wore expressions of awkwardness, wanting to die. Even Qin Feng couldn't help but wonder where this peculiar character came from. Zhao Pengfei waved his hand with a blank expression and wrote down his name in the notebook. The note behind his name read, "Mildly intellectually disabled, missing a few screws." The next few recruits were more normal, with no particularly strange characters appearing. However, there was a medium-sized, lean kid who caught Zhao Pengfei's attention. "Report, leader, I'm Qi Ming from East Mountain. I graduated from the Blue Sky Martial Arts Academy and was a two-time runner-up in the city martial arts competition. I came to enlist to break through myself and become stronger." Qi Ming smiled. "Hopefully, I'll get a chance to arm wrestle with the veterans." Hearing this, Zhao Pengfei slightly furrowed his brows. Young but quite ambitious. Wanting to arm wrestle with veterans? Quite bold, huh? He didn't say much, but made a note next to Qi Ming's name that a soldier with a bit of skill is the most likely to become a troublemaker, so he needed to keep a close eye. Soon, it was the turn of a fair-skinned recruit with a bit of arrogance in his demeanor, looking like he came from a well-off family. "Report, leader, I'm Li Jiaxing from West Mountain. My family is in the coal mining business. If you can't find a job after you're discharged, you can come to me." Li Jiaxing's self-introduction was quite showy. Almost every word he spoke screamed that his family was wealthy, that he even emphasized that they owned a Mercedes-Benz Maybach and a G-Class. Being young, Qin Feng understood the eagerness some privileged individuals have to show off in a new environment. However, it was clear that Zhao Pengfei was not fond of Li Jiaxing's ostentatious introduction. He coldly snorted and said, "I asked you to introduce yourself, not to flaunt your wealth." Li Jiaxing felt a bit awkward, but quickly continued, "I joined the army after watching Special 1. I think being a soldier is cool and handsome. My goal is to become a top special forces soldier like Xiao Zhuang." This immediately opened up a lively discussion among everyone. "That you've seen Special 1 too?" "Yes, I watched it. It was great. My favorite character is Doghead Lao Gao." "Have you seen parts 2 and 3? I managed to watch 2. It was okay, but 3 was just not worth watching." Although Qin Feng didn't participate in the discussion, he had seen the show too. It was well made, depicting the growth of soldiers along with their struggles and joys. However, he felt that the character Xiaolan was too foolish and didn't resemble a soldier at all. Also, the female lead, Xiao Ying, had a rather tragic ending. "See, I told you, relationships in the army can end badly." As for the second part, Qin Feng's response was similarly lukewarm. But the character Fan Tianqing was portrayed in a way that made him seem less intelligent, with various absurd actions that were hard to understand. Regarding the third part, Fire Phoenix, well, it truly wasn't worth watching. Silence. Zhao Pengfei's voice interrupted everyone. "TV dramas are dramas, and reality is reality. I hope you can tell the difference. Also, don't say I didn't warn you. Many scenarios in the show are not to be imitated, or you won't have a good time." Hearing this, everyone laughed. Even Li Jiaxing took it as a joke and didn't take it to heart. He had already decided to follow the path of the character Xiao Zhuang in the show. After all, that character earned recognition step by step and eventually joined the Lone Wolf B team. At this moment, Zhao Pengfei's gaze shifted to the last new recruit in the class, Qin Feng. His expression was somewhat meaningful. It was as if he was saying, "Come on, share your story." "Report, squad leader. My name is Qin Feng, the Qin from Qin Huang and Han Wu, and the Feng of literary elegance. I am from Jiangsu in Zhejiang." After saying that, Qin Feng sat down. This left Zhao Pengfei a bit puzzled. "That's it?" Zhao Pengfei looked at him in a daze. "I specifically saved you for last to hear something impressive, but you just gave me this bland introduction?" The rest of the class looked at Qin Feng with curiosity. The reason was simple. They had all clearly heard Qin Feng on the phone earlier. After all, the dormitory was small, and it was hard not to overhear, so everyone assumed that Qin Feng must have an interesting story. However, Li Jiaxing held a dismissive attitude toward Qin Feng. The reason was simple. No one else in the class was allowed to be impressive besides me. Li Jiaxing. With my family's good fortune, I don't have such luck in romance. Are you getting a bit too arrogant? But Zhao Pengfei was genuinely interested in Qin Feng, wanting to know more. "Tell me why you joined the army and what you hope to achieve in the future." Qin Feng stood up again. "Report, squad leader. I want to protect my home and country, which is why I joined the army. As for my future development in the military, I haven't thought it through yet." Zhao Pengfei frowned slightly, feeling a bit dissatisfied. This segment was ostensibly for self-introductions, but in reality, it was to gauge the new recruits in the squad. Who likes to show off, who has special skills, it should all be evident. But Qin Feng's answers left him uncertain. He had replied, but they were ineffective responses. If anyone else had answered like that, it would have been acceptable. But this guy looked like he had a lot more to offer. Zhao Pengfei decided to lead the conversation. "Qin Feng, with your looks, you must be quite popular with the girls outside, right? What made you suddenly decide to join the army?" Qin Feng chuckled. Squad leader, didn't you join the army too? Zhao Pengfei paused for a second before realizing. Yes, can a handsome guy join the army? Pretty boys are all assets for the country. Suddenly, Zhao Pengfei couldn't help but smile a little. This compliment was subtle, yet perfectly timed. Quite impressive. So what about those girls you mentioned on the phone earlier? Oh, those? They're just some girls I get along well with. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone's eyelids twitched violently. This even normal response? So infuriating, yet they had to maintain smiles. Envy, jealousy, hatred. Various emotions max. 0.97, 98, 99, 100, system charging completed, binding in progress. Chapter 2. Even if I starve or jump off a building, I won't eat. The phrase Tian Xing Jian comes from the I Ching. The original sentence reads, the movement of heaven is vigorous. A gentleman should constantly strive for self-improvement. The condition of the earth is receptive. A gentleman should carry the weight of virtue. In translation, it means, a gentleman should handle affairs like heaven, striving for progress, being resolute and strong, working hard, and never stopping. This ability will grant Qin Feng greater insight and learning capacity. Likewise, his efforts will yield greater rewards. In the past, it was always 1 unit of effort for 1 unit of return. But with the system's support, Qin Feng can put in 1 unit of effort and reap the rewards as if using a tractor with a sack. This feeling of small investment and big returns is truly gratifying. There are no flashy panels or chaotic tasks. The focus is solely on one thing. You just need to work hard and grow freely. The rest will be handled by the system. Everyone gathered downstairs. Suddenly, a whistle sounded from below, followed by a call. Zhao Pengfei immediately instructed everyone to line up at the door and gather downstairs. Quack, 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 second quack. The leading veteran shouted with a strong accent, calling everyone to the cafeteria. Along the way, some new recruits were stifling their laughter, clearly puzzled. How did the slogan 121 turn into second quack here? The cafeteria for the new recruit company wasn't far from the dormitory. It only took 5 minutes to get there. Everyone was marching in place on the steps in front of the cafeteria. Just standing there, they could already smell the tempting aroma wafting from inside. They wondered what delicious food would be served for the first meal in the army: braised pork, a big chicken leg, or perhaps grilled shrimp. Many new recruits were secretly guessing, clearly craving food. Stand at attention. Upon hearing the command, everyone stopped swinging their arms and stood straight. On the steps stood the company commander of the new recruit company, Gu Jiong, wearing the rank insignia of a captain with 1 stripe and 3 stars. He scanned the crowd and spoke loudly. I know everyone has been on the bus all day and is very hungry. However, in the army, meals require meal tickets. Upon hearing this, the new recruits below began to whisper and murmur among themselves. Meal tickets? What meal tickets? Isn't food in the army free? How come I've never heard of this? Qin Feng didn't speak, but he had a vague idea of what it was. In his previous life, although he hadn't served in the military, he had followed many military-related influencers on short video platforms. So he knew that the so-called meal tickets mentioned by the commander referred to singing. But it wasn't just any song. It had to be a military song. Of course, The Flower of the Army was an exception. This song had long been banned in the military. There were even many jokes online about how the song was sung in the morning, tears were shed on the spot, and people ran at night. However, apart from that, Qin Feng also knew another military band song that could rival The Flower of the Army. If that song were sung, it would surely make the veterans cry. Be quiet. Gu Jiong snorted coldly, and the new recruits' discussions were instantly silenced. You don't need to guess anymore. The meal tickets in the military are all about singing. Singing military songs. He looked at the duty squad leader and said, since we haven't learned the other songs yet, let's just sing Unity for now. You take the lead. Yes. The duty squad leader immediately ran up to the steps, raised both hands, and shouted to the new recruits. Unity is strength. Prepare to sing. Unity is Li Iliang. Unity is Li Iliang. Although the new recruits were singing along, many were just moving their lips without making any sound. Some were even singing while lowering their heads and snickering. The reason for the laughter was, of course, that they found the situation quite awkward. They couldn't understand why singing in the military was tied to meal times. Soon, the song Unity is Strength was finished. Just when everyone thought they could go in and eat after getting through this, Gu Jiong poured a bucket of cold water on everyone. There was no spirit in that at all. A bunch of grown men making such little noise. Can't you open your mouths? Let's do it again. The new recruits felt a bit uneasy, but when under the roof, they had to lower their heads. So, everyone had no choice but to sing it again as required. However, the response was still lackluster, lacking spirit, emotion, and volume. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times many began to grow increasingly irritated. Especially standing at the entrance of the cafeteria, smelling the aroma of the food wafting out. This gnawing hunger made them even more frustrated. But being frustrated was useless. This was the military's rule. Although Qin Feng sang earnestly each time, even if he shouted until his throat was sore, in such a group singing situation, the effect was minimal. So, he could only join in with everyone, singing over and over again. That soldier, do you have a dead rat in your mouth? Third row, sixth from the left, can't you open your mouth? Listen up. If you can't sing with spirit, you'll keep singing here tonight until you meet the standard, until you're satisfied. Amid the scolding from the company commander and various veteran squad leaders, the new recruits learned their lesson and began to sing out loud. But even so, they sang 3 times before Gu Zhiong finally showed mercy and let them in. By now, it was already past 8 in the evening. Due to uncertainty about the new recruits' arrival time, the cooking team hadn't prepared any dishes for the evening, only boiling noodles. Moreover, they were the plain noodles without any toppings. Disappointment spread among the new recruits. They had originally thought that their first meal in the military would be a feast, but it turned out to be this. However, some new recruits knew about the military tradition of having dumplings upon arrival and noodles when departing, so they could reluctantly accept it. Who the hell told you to sit down? Suddenly, a harsh reprimand rang out. Everyone turned to look at the 8th squad and saw a new recruit with his head down. They then realized that even entering the cafeteria required adherence to rules. They had to wait for the company commander and instructor to be seated and for the duty officer to finish speaking before the recruits could sit down with their squad leader. Sit. The company commander and the instructor sat down first, followed by the squad leaders who issued commands for everyone to take their seats. Just as the new recruits from the 4th squad settled onto their benches, one particularly hungry recruit couldn't wait to stand up again. He grabbed his chopsticks and eagerly scooped noodles into his bowl. Qin Feng also filled a bowl, but not for himself, it was for the squad leader. In his previous life, as a seasoned professional, he understood the importance of interpersonal relationships. In the closed environment of the military, it was essential to maintain good relations with superiors to have a more comfortable experience. Where there are people, there are connections, and where there are connections, there are social norms. Clearly, Qin Feng's action surprised Zhao Pengfei, who also revealed a pleased smile. No matter what this recruit was like outside, at least he showed respect, which was commendable. However, in Li Jiaxing's eyes, Qin Feng's behavior appeared as flattery and sycophancy, coming from a well-off background. He looked down on such actions and rolled his eyes dramatically. Qin Feng, of course, was unaware of Li Jiaxing's thoughts and didn't care, as he was genuinely hungry. Yangshan noodles might not suit the tastes of people from other regions, but for someone from Jiangsu and Zhejiang like Qin Feng, they were just right. With a slightly sweet soy sauce base, a few drops of sesame oil, a pinch of white pepper, and a small handful of chopped scallions, it was a delightful dish. It would be even better with some chopped red chili peppers. Besides the noodles, everyone also received a salted duck egg. There were also some shredded pickled vegetables on the table, tasting much like those bought at the market. Although the first meal after enlisting was a bit humble, Qin Feng still enjoyed it immensely, as this bowl of noodles symbolized good fortune and smooth sailing ahead. At that moment, an unpleasant sound broke the harmony at the dining table. Qin Feng looked up to see Li Jiaxing with a look of disgust, picking through the noodles in his bowl with his chopsticks. He occasionally shook his head and made disapproving noises. Clearly, he was dissatisfied with his first meal in the military. Zhao Pengfei glanced at him, furrowing his brow and asking, "What are you doing? Why aren't you eating?" Li Jiaxing put down his chopsticks, showing a troubled expression. Squad leader, these noodles are so plain, without any decent toppings. How can I eat this? It wasn't that he was being difficult. He genuinely had never eaten noodles like this before. The Northwest region, known as the birthplace of traditional noodle dishes, boasted a variety of culinary delights, such as oil-splashed noodles and biangbiang noodles. Among them, the most famous was Qishan Satsi noodles. In contrast, Yangchun noodles, popular in the Huayang region, while sounding poetic, were indeed much simpler compared to other noodle dishes. Many people found them hard to adjust to. I'm asking you, are you eating or not? Zhao Pengfei's expression had turned chilly. Li Jiaxing weakly picked up his chopsticks. As if doing it for the squad leader's sake, he symbolically picked up 2 strands of noodles and put them in his mouth, only to grimace as if he had tasted something bitter. Squad leader, I really can't eat this sweet soy sauce noodle. I'm not eating anymore. You all go ahead. Qin Feng suddenly felt that this guy's tone was a bit like complaining to his mom at home about the food not being good. Although he had heard before that the veteran squad leader was known as the mother of the troops, this mother was not like the one at home. She truly wouldn't indulge you at all. Seeing Zhao Pengfei's increasingly grim expression, Qin Feng silently performed an early rite for Li Jiaxing. Qi Ming and many others in the class looked like they were waiting to see a good show. Stand up. In the next moment, Zhao Pengfei grabbed Li Jiaxing by the arm and lifted him up. Repeat what you just said. All eyes in the cafeteria turned to them. Li Jiaxing, who had become the target of everyone's attention, suddenly felt a bit flustered. He had no idea what he had said wrong. Nevertheless, he mustered up the little bit of courage he had and stubbornly replied, "Squad leader, I don't think I said anything wrong. This kind of plain noodles, with no toppings at all, how can we eat it?" Where I come from, we often have several toppings with our noodles. Even pickles come in different varieties. Besides, this is just plain noodles. I really can't eat it. I believe everyone feels the same way. As he spoke, he scanned the other classes, hoping to gain some support. However, as his gaze passed over, all the new recruits lowered their heads, as if they hadn't heard him at all, completely unresponsive. Li Jiaxing started to panic. He had clearly heard people from the 3rd and 5th classes complaining in low voices earlier, asking why they were eating this. He mistakenly thought that everyone shared his opinion on the food being bad. But now, why was there not a single person responding to him? Feeling anxious, Li Jiaxing began to seek help from his own classmates. Say something. Isn't this kind of noodle really bad? I actually think it's okay, one timid voice replied. But apart from Chun Sanchi's shy comment, the only response was the sound of noodles being slurped. As a local from the Jiangsu Zhejiang region who was used to eating plain noodles, Qin Feng slurped the loudest. You kid, really have some guts. If you dared to say that where I'm from, you'd probably be beaten to death by the noodle shop owner. These noodles are the most frequently appearing ones in Jin Yang's martial arts novels, no exceptions. Those heroes of the rivers and lakes would just ask for, waiter, bring me a pound of beef, a pot of liquor, and a bowl of plain noodles. This is the standard meal for a hero, meant to enjoy the true flavor of the noodles. You really don't know how to appreciate it. Looking at the isolated Li Jiaxing, Zhao Pengfei sneered, see? Besides you, no one else has a problem with it. Why are you the only special one among so many people? You have food and are still complaining. Do you think this is your home? Eat it, and I'll watch you finish. Zhao Pengfei's shout made Li Jiaxing's eyes turn red. Having been pampered by his grandfather and loved by his mother, where had he ever suffered such humiliation? I want to eat it. I'll ask you one more time. Will you eat it or not? I absolutely want to eat it. I'm so hungry that I'd rather jump from the building than eat. Li Jiaxing shouted this. His face flushed from the effort. However, Qin Feng could tell that the kid was just putting on a show. This tactic might work outside, but not here. Also, why did he suddenly feel that this kid's words sounded oddly familiar? Wasn't there a very famous professor with the surname Wang who had said something similar? At that moment, Zhao Pengfei unexpectedly picked up the bowl in front of Li Jiaxing and slammed it down on the table with a loud bang, almost identical to a scene from a certain historical drama. Then, he removed the bowl, pointed at the noodles on the table, and said sternly, if you can't get used to the local cuisine, how about we switch to a different dish? Now do you have an appetite? I'm counting to 3, so hurry up and eat those noodles. Zhao Pengfei's actions left Li Jiaxing stunned. He never imagined that the class leader would act so aggressively. Slamming the noodles onto the table and talking about switching dishes? Looking at the pile of unappetizing noodles, Li Jiaxing's eyes turned red, and tears began to fall. It was all a lie. Before coming to the army, he had searched for so much information online. They all said that class leaders were friendly and would help new recruits with water and blankets at night. Even if you made mistakes, the class leader would still encourage you. But now, he was facing such treatment. Class leader. Qin Feng couldn't bear to watch any longer and spoke softly. Li Jiaxing looked at him like he was a savior, hoping that Qin Feng would help him eat the noodles on the table. Once it was over, he would definitely show his gratitude. However, Qin Feng's next actions left Zhao Pengfei a bit dissatisfied. What are you doing? Are you going to eat them for him? No. No. Qin Feng quickly distanced himself from the situation, smiling shyly. Class leader, during the self-introduction, Li Jiaxing said he was from Xishan. I thought people from there love vinegar. So how about we give him some to stimulate his appetite? Zhao Pengfei hadn't thought of that, so he turned to Li Jiaxing. Want some vinegar? Li Jiaxing looked at the pile of noodles on the table, and then at Qin Feng, suddenly donning a mask of anguish, tears streaming down his face. Is this really about adding vinegar? Thank you very much. Your help is more of a hindrance. But before he could think further, Qin Feng had already eagerly handed him the vinegar bottle. Here, some aged vinegar from Xishan. Let us see if it brings back any flavors of home. Chapter 3. This new recruit is too strange. Zhao Pengfei. What was that about just now? In the office, instructor Bai Yuan slammed the table and criticized sternly. In front of so many people in the cafeteria, how can you be so rude to a new recruit? Slamming the bowl on the table and talking about switching dishes. Do you think you're funny? Report to the instructor. I didn't. Zhao Pengfei stood at attention, accepting the instructor's criticism. Bai Yuan grunted and said sternly, when leading troops, especially new recruits, you must pay attention to methods and approaches. This is not 10 years ago, nor 20 years ago. You need to lead scientifically and civilly. Are you still using the old methods, shouting and getting angry at every turn? Does that really work? Life conditions have improved, and young people today have grown up in a more comfortable environment, which is different from our past. Having some ideas and a bit of personality is understandable, right? Yes. Seeing Zhao Pengfei's good attitude in admitting his mistake, Bai Yuan didn't say much more. He then turned to the company commander, who was drinking tea, and said with irritation, Old Gu, this kid is in your charge. You need to talk to him properly. I have to hurry to the 4th squad and give that soldier some psychological support. Go ahead. Gu Xiong waved his hand dismissively while quickly spitting out the tea leaves into his cup. He then pointed at Zhao Pengfei with a serious expression and scolded, "Zhao Pengfei, this issue of yours is quite serious. How can you?" Just as the instructor left, Gu Xiong stopped. He then pulled out a pack of cigarettes from the drawer, opened it, and tossed one to Zhao Pengfei. "Company commander, this." "Don't ask, just smoke your own," Gu Xiong said with a cigarette in his mouth, searching for a lighter on the table. The instructor has his position. He is a staff officer in the regiment, talking about big principles, which is different from us roughnecks. We're practical. When leading troops, especially new recruits, relying only on words doesn't work, does it? Where the hell did my lighter go? Zhao Pengfei quickly leaned over and used his lighter to light Gu Xiong's cigarette. Gu Xiong smiled and pointed at him, showing an expression of appreciation. After exhaling a puff of smoke, he continued, "Today's new recruits have many ideas and problems, making them harder to lead than before. On the first day, you must assert yourself to get these kids in line before you can proceed with the work. You did well today. I saw the other squad members who were acting out immediately become obedient." Zhao Pengfei chuckled, "Company commander, that is all thanks to your good teaching." Gu Xiong beamed with a sense of pride and, with a cigarette between his fingers, pointed at him. "You better put more effort into leading troops this time. Make me proud. Also, remember to put on a serious face when you go back. You still need to act a bit in front of the instructor, got it? Yes. Now get out of here. By the way, leave me that lighter. I don't know where mine went." Reluctantly, Zhao Pengfei left the lighter, saluted, and walked out. Gu Xiong naturally pocketed the lighter, clearly having done this before. "Wait a minute. Company commander, is there anything else?" Zhao Pengfei stopped and turned back. "Isn't there a martial arts school graduate in your squad?" Gu Xiong casually asked while flicking the ash from his cigarette. "Yes, his name is Qi Meng." "Why? Hee. A bit cocky, saying he wants to arm wrestle with the veterans." Gu Xiong also laughed, a bit unaware of his own limitations, but with some honing, he could be a good steal. "What about the others? Is there anything special in your class?" Zhao Pengfei thought for a moment. "That kid who refused to eat noodles at night because he was upset. His family runs a coal mine, and I drive a Maybach. I guess the biggest hardship he has faced in his life might just be drinking coffee. There's a kid who's also from my hometown, but he is a bit slow on the uptake. As for the others, it seems like they're all the same, but there's one kid who is quite special. I feel particularly interesting." "Interesting? Really special?" Gu Xiong suddenly became interested. He liked this kind of unique new recruit. "They're all the same, what is the point?" Zhao Pengfei chuckled. "Squad leader, I want to observe him a bit longer, and I'll report back to you once I have results. You brat, keeping me in suspense? Get out, and close the door." "Yes." After Zhao Pengfei left, Gu Xiong extinguished his cigarette in the ashtray. He took out a phone from the drawer and opened a WeChat chat. Then, he sent a message to a girl with a nickname, not very fond of laughing. "Are you there? Have you eaten? Do you like Yancha noodles?" "Instructor, I feel like I didn't do anything wrong. That noodle, it was just hard to eat." In the corridor, Li Jiaxing was complaining to the instructor with a wronged expression. Bai Yuan comforted him like a concerned mother. "You really didn't do anything wrong. But this is the military, and there are rules in the military. I hope you can understand. The cooking team didn't know when you all would arrive. So they didn't prepare a big meal tonight. Hence it was a bit simpler. If you really can't get used to it, I have 2 boxes of biscuits. I can bring them to you to snack on." Hearing this, Li Jiaxing felt much better. This is the military. It has to be reasonable. So, he gratefully shook his head and said, "No need. Instructor, I'm not hungry at all. On the way here, I had some Belgian imported chocolate, German smoked sausage, and some stop. Bai Yuan was really getting a bit impatient. Goodness, eating some snacks can turn into a global affair. With such a pampered upbringing, no wonder he can't get used to the cafeteria noodles. You can head back to your dorm. If anything comes up later, feel free to come find me directly. Don't think of me as just an instructor. Think of me as an older brother." "Yes, thank you, instructor." After sending off the instructor, Li Jiaxing felt quite spirited. It was as if he had found a support. However, any new recruit who has chatted with the instructor for a bit would have this illusion. The reason is simple. In a strange environment where one feels lonely, if someone speaks up for you, it's easy to feel a sense of goodwill. But just listen to the instructor. Don't take it too seriously, or it will definitely lead to trouble. Li Jiaxing walked back to the dorm with his head held high, and as soon as he sat on the edge of the bed, he began to vent his dissatisfaction. "We're all comrades in the same class. Didn't anyone see me getting picked on by the squad leader in the cafeteria?" The others glanced at him, but didn't say anything. Qi Meng spoke with a hint of sarcasm. "Come on, man, this is clearly self-inflicted. Who would help you? Who wants to share your bad luck?" "I'm just speaking the truth." Li Jiajian, who had been rebutted, immediately became displeased. "We've been singing our hearts out outside, finally got a meal, and this is what we get? I specifically searched online before, and in the military, meals usually consist of 6 dishes, 1 soup, and 1 staple. They are clearly just messing with us. thinking we new recruits are easy to bully, deliberately trying to show us who's in charge. What I'm doing is fighting for our rights. You should support me. Qi Ming chuckled, thinking that Li Jiajin might not be very bright and didn't want to waste more words on him. Chen Sanchi felt that Li Jiajin had a point, but not much. The others simply pretended not to hear, acting deaf and mute. Only Qin Feng had a smile on his face and slightly raised his chin towards Li Jiajin, as if to say, see, I was righteous just now, right? A chill ran down Li Jiajin's spine. He swallowed hard and averted his gaze, feeling inexplicably intimidated by Qin Feng. He couldn't quite put his finger on it, but he sensed something off about this guy. He had only felt this way before with a few core veterans in his father's company. These types often appeared unremarkable on the surface, but just a casual conversation could expose all your secrets, leaving you feeling stripped bare. They could sell you out, and you'd still find yourself counting the money for them. At that moment, looking at Qin Feng, Li Jiajin had that same feeling. It was quite unsettling, but perhaps it was just his imagination. After all, Qin Feng's family background couldn't compare to his. Their experiences, thinking, and ideas were on entirely different levels. While most young people hadn't even traveled far, Li Jiajin had already been abroad several times with his parents. The depth of his life experience was simply unmatched by his peers. Just then, footsteps echoed in the corridor. Zhao Pengfei walked in with his hands behind his back, holding a plastic bag that contained what seemed to be a lump. No, a pile of noodles. He tossed the sealed bag to Li Jiajin. In the military, there was never a tradition of leftover food. If it was yours, no one would eat it for you. You must finish this before tomorrow morning. This is an order. No room for negotiation. Looking at the bulging mass in his hand, Li Jiajin's expression darkened. Earlier, he had narrowly escaped a situation with the help of an instructor in the cafeteria. He hadn't expected the squad leader to keep bringing it up, even packing the noodles for him to take back. But this time, Li Jiajin had learned his lesson and didn't dare to speak up again. Instead, he obediently accepted it and tossed the item into a small yellow basin under his bed. He planned to secretly dispose of it during lights out under the pretense of going to the restroom, hoping to get away with it. Zhao Pengfei clapped his hands, calling everyone over. All right, it's still early before bedtime. Let me teach you how to fold your blankets. Gather around. In the military, folding blankets was an old tradition. Many people, even if they have never served in the military, have heard of the square military blankets that are neatly folded with sharp corners, which are indeed quite pleasing to the eye. Qin Feng is actually quite interested in folding military blankets. Although he never had the habit of making his bed in his previous life, leaving his bedroom in a complete mess, it does not affect his desire to try the experience of folding military blankets. Previously, he often came across many videos about folding military blankets on short video platforms. Of course, what truly attracted him was not the videos themselves, but the various comments in the comment section. The one that left a deep impression on Qin Feng was a comment titled "Veterans Never Fade." Accompanying the comment was a picture of a white square blanket, but it had the logo of a certain foot massage service printed on it. It must be said that many veteran squad leaders are very serious in their daily lives, but privately, they are all quite skilled at having fun. At this moment, Zhao Pengfei has begun to demonstrate how to fold a military blanket. Due to the small size of the bed, he directly laid the blanket on the floor to fold it. Some people with cleanliness issues were already starting to feel uncomfortable with this. However, the hygiene standards in the military are very strict, and the floor tiles are kept very clean. Zhao Pengfei did not waste any words. He squatted on the ground, folding the blanket while explaining the techniques in detail. Although everyone gathered around to watch, many had already started to lose focus. The process of folding the blanket is very tedious and boring, and just watching it has made quite a few people yawn. Then, they were met with a scolding from Zhao Pengfei. Although Qin Feng was learning quite seriously, he unfortunately ended up being caught in the crossfire. Chapter 4. Who messed up the squad leader's blanket? Come out. All right. Soon, Zhao Pengfei had finished folding the blanket. It was square and sharp-edged, looking as if it had been built with bricks. It gave a clean, bright, and pleasing feeling, and was indeed very beautiful. Squad leader, amazing. This blanket is folded better than bricks. It really looks like bricks. Squad leader, can I touch it? Wow, it's even prickly, so impressive. Folding military blankets is a fundamental skill for every soldier in the military. A well-folded blanket reflects that Zhao Pengfei likely excels in other areas as well. Although Zhao Pengfei had a smile on his face, he did not indulge in the praise from the recruits, but said seriously, "Did you all see clearly? Now, find a place to fold your blankets. If the dormitory is not suitable, go to the corridor outside. Don't mind if it's dirty. The corridor floors in the military are cleaner than your faces." This was not an exaggeration. Qin Feng had heard that in the military, they do not use mops to clean the floors, but rather cloths. At the command of everyone down, everyone would drop to the ground like they were clearing mines and start working. But that wasn't the worst part. For places like the gaps in the tiles that were hard to reach with a cloth, they had to use a toothbrush. At this point, everyone rushed off, each grabbing a blanket to find a place to practice folding. Folding blankets is like making fried rice. The simpler it looks, the harder it is. The rice needs to be separated and must stick to the egg. Folding military blankets may seem one thing, but actually doing it is another. Often, the mind tells you, I've got it. But the hands curse back. What the hell? How could I possibly get it? After just a little while of practice, the new recruits begin scratching their heads, continuously looking around. Of course, they aren't trying to see how others are folding. Rather, they want to see how others are struggling just like them. Seeing that everyone is having a hard time, they immediately feel less anxious. At least it reflects that it's not their intelligence or manual skills that are the problem, but rather that this blanket is particularly rebellious and has its own ideas. At that moment, Qin Feng went over to observe the squad leader's bunk. When he returned, Chun Sanchi curiously asked, Qin Feng, what did you just do? Just checking the details. Qin Feng smiled, knowing that with the system he had, his understanding was top-notch. As long as he looked closely enough, he could master it faster. So, did you figure anything out? Any tricks or differences? Chun Sanchi chattered away like a little parrot, firing questions like a machine gun. Qin Feng didn't expect this guy to be so talkative. He worried that if Chun Sanchi kept blabbering, they would get scolded when the squad leader returned. So he simply said he was reflecting on it himself. To his surprise, Chun Sanchi eagerly ran over to pinch the squad leader's blanket. As a result, he accidentally flattened one corner. Panicking, he scrambled to fix it, but no matter how he tried, it wouldn't return to its original state. Eventually, Chun Sanchi excitedly ran back to tell Qin Feng what he discovered. I found it. The squad leader's blanket is just a thin layer. Ours are soft. Qin Feng's eyes widened at his actions. You dared to pinch the squad leader's blanket? Are you trying to get yourself into trouble? He knew that in the military, there's a saying that one should cherish their blanket as if it were life itself. Before Qin Feng could finish his thought, Qi Ming also ran over to pinch the squad leader's blanket, flattening another corner. Upon returning, he concluded that the squad leader's blanket seemed to be stiffer. Qin Feng felt a twitch in his eyelids. He thought to himself, you guys really have guts. Aren't you afraid of the squad leader coming back and blowing up? Soon. It was as if the dormitory was spreading like a contagion. Everyone inexplicably ran over to pinch the squad leader's blanket. Watching the blanket being abused by a group of people, Qin Feng's eyelids twitched wildly. Oh no, this is bad. In the hallway, Li Jiaxing appeared to be folding blankets. But in reality, he was keeping an eye on the class dynamics. Before joining the military, he had researched a lot online and knew the differences between veteran and rookie blankets. Originally, he planned to wait until tomorrow to show off after being praised by the squad leader. Unexpectedly, Qin Feng had stirred things up early. Li Jiaxing was furious. He then ran over and vented his frustration by pinching the squad leader's blanket hard. He concluded that what he read online was indeed correct. Veteran blankets were much easier to fold. After he finished venting, the squad leader's blanket had become a sight to behold, resembling a rotten persimmon that had been thrown on the ground and stepped on by everyone. Just looking at it felt painful to the eyes. At this moment, Qin Feng was unperturbed, sharing the little tricks he had learned about folding blankets with everyone. After listening, the others suddenly felt a sense of enlightenment. In fact, the squad leader had emphasized these points during his demonstration earlier, but many had spaced out and didn't retain the information. It was like going to school with a backpack. Some people filled their heads with knowledge, while others were preoccupied with games, and some only thought about superficial things. With Qin Feng's reminders, everyone began to shift their mindset and slowly found their rhythm. When Zhao Pengfei returned from the restroom after smoking, he was stunned by the scene. Originally, he had planned to let these kids do their own thing and then scold a few of them for folding poorly, hoping they would remember the importance of making beds. However, the kids were all following the steps correctly. How could he scold them? There was no reason to. While this was a good thing, as it indicated that everyone had paid attention during his demonstration, Zhao Pengfei still felt that something was off. His gaze shifted to his own bed, and Qin Feng's heart sank. Who did this? Looking at the blanket that seemed to have been beaten by numerous strong men, Zhao Pengfei let out an angry roar. Everyone was scared into silence, quickly lowering their heads, silently repeating to themselves, "You can't see me, you can't see me." Zhao Pengfei's eyelids twitched, his anger boiling. In the military, he could tolerate many things, but messing with his blanket was absolutely intolerable. The issue was even more severe than if someone had messed with his girlfriend. However, considering that these kids might have just been observing and accidentally made a mess, Zhao Pengfei had to suppress his anger and tidy up the blanket again. Seeing that the squad leader did not continue to explode, Qin Feng secretly breathed a sigh of relief. That was close. He almost stepped on a landmine. But then, he threw himself back into folding the military blanket. For others, folding blankets was a painful ordeal, but Qin Feng found joy in it. Why? When your salary is several times that of your colleagues, wouldn't you feel motivated? As the saying goes, work quietly and amaze everyone. Of course, outshining the new recruits had never been Qin Feng's goal. He turned to look at the nearly perfect military blanket on the squad leader's bed, his eyes filled with fighting spirit. Defeating the squad leader was Qin Feng's ultimate goal. Yes, follow the path of the veterans and leave them with no way out. At this moment, Xiao Pengfei, who was sitting by the bed lost in thought, suddenly jolted as if he had been targeted by a beast. But when he turned around, he found no trace of that provocative gaze. It was 9:50 p.m., 10 minutes before lights out. In the washroom, a group of new recruits were dressed in slippers and shorts, some brushing their teeth, while others washed their faces. Of course, there were also those taking cold showers in just their shorts. Taking advantage of the downtime, the new recruits from the 4th squad began to chat casually. I just couldn't understand. Aren't we here to serve our country and fight? Why are we being taught trivial matters? With this idle time, wouldn't it be better to teach us something practical? Exactly. I joined the army to learn how to shoot and fight, not to fold blankets like a housekeeper. Qin Feng was brushing his teeth, foam filling his mouth. He was listening but not participating in the discussion. It wasn't he that he was aloof, or didn't he want to talk. It was just that tonight's events had made him more cautious. The army was a strange place for him. The more one speaks, the more mistakes one makes. So, in the early stages, when he knew nothing, it was better to observe, learn, and listen. If he could avoid being the center of attention, he would. Otherwise, there would be no good outcome. Yet, there were always those who preferred to go against the grain. Indeed, it was Li Jiansheng, who came from a modest background. As someone from an elite family, he had been influenced by his parents from a young age. Not only did he enjoy leading conversations, but he was also good at showing off. You guys don't understand why we fold blankets in the army. I happen to know a little about it, he said. Really? Go ahead and tell us. Someone asked curiously. Li Jiansheng raised his chin slightly and dramatically held up a finger. First, folding blankets can cultivate soldiers' lifestyle habits and good attitudes. Second, what was the second point? Oh right, folding blankets can test combat readiness. If one can fold a blanket quickly and well in a short time, it fosters a sense of urgency and attention to detail. Third, the third point is that it helps develop discipline and a sense of belonging. Qin Feng, with a toothbrush in his mouth, looked at Li Jiansheng as if he were an idiot. What do you mean you know a little? You clearly just copied from a search engine and memorized it. This guy must be a bit off to recite this stuff. Sure enough, after just a couple of sentences, Qi Meng yawned. Shortly after, this yawn seemed to spread like an infection. By the sink, all the recruits from the 4th squad opened their mouths and let out big yawns. Oh no, the yawn was about to reach him. Qin Feng wanted to resist, but his jaw opened uncontrollably. This guy really knows how to hypnotize. Before Li Jiansheng could finish his lengthy speech, everyone had already left. It was too boring. They didn't want to listen anymore and rushed back to their beds to sleep. At this point, only Qin Feng and Li Jiansheng remained by the sink. Although there were 3 or 4 faucets between them, being alone with Qin Feng made Li Jiansheng feel somewhat uneasy. Even though there were still people from the 5th and 6th squads washing up, that uneasy feeling didn't diminish. In fact, in his eyes, Qin Feng's previous actions of showing jealousy lingered. With iodine tincture on the belt, disinfecting while drawing, this was a tough character, and Li Jiansheng was quietly on guard. He quickly packed his toiletries into a small yellow basin, ready to leave. However, as he passed by Qin Feng, he was called to a halt. Wait a minute. What is up? Li Jiansheng turned around, somewhat displeased, adopting an air of indifference. Qin Feng smiled warmly. I'd like to borrow some facial cleanser. Indeed, young Master Li had brought facial cleanser with him. In addition to that, he also had toner and moisturizer. These toiletries were not classified as contraband, so there was no need to hand them over. Qin Feng usually had the habit of using facial cleanser, but he had forgotten to bring it this time. After a day of traveling, his face was either covered in exhaust or oil, and he was concerned that soap wouldn't clean it properly. Oh, I see. Here you go. Li Jiansheng generously handed over the facial cleanser, emphasizing, I bought this last year while traveling in a certain country. It's quite expensive and can't be found domestically. Qin Feng smiled in acknowledgement, squeezed out a bit, and handed it back to him. Thanks. Immediately, he started rubbing it on his face haphazardly like a ghost drawing symbols. Without waiting for the foam to fully form, he rushed to the faucet to rinse it off. Watching this operation, Li Jiansheng frowned, deep in suspicion. Did I not make myself clear? Or did he not hear that this was bought abroad? This small bottle costs dozens of dollars. Even I would take 5 minutes to wash. You haven't even produced foam and you rinsed it off? That's too wasteful. I won't lend it next time. As soon as Qin Feng returned to the dormitory, the lights out signal promptly sounded. The entire building gradually sank into a sea of darkness. However, in the corridor, the sound of many slippers slapping against the floor could still be heard, mixed with impatient urging from some veteran leaders and some unfriendly curses. Nevertheless, thinking about being able to lie down and sleep soon, the new recruits who had been through a day of turmoil felt quite relaxed at this moment. Clearly many, including Qin Feng, did not realize that in the military, lights out did not mean it was time to go to bed. Because when darkness swallowed the light, the carnival of physical training in the military was just beginning. Chapter 5. Squad leader, your feet are too blinding. Really? The new recruits of Squad for All looked dejected, as if they had lost their will to live. Just a moment ago, Zhao Pengfei suddenly announced that they would be doing 300 exercises before bed. What are the 300s? 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and 100 squats. Of course, sometimes the last squat might be replaced with high knees. How this little package was arranged depended entirely on the mood of the veteran leader. What are you doing? What are you doing? Zhao Pengfei coldly snorted in dissatisfaction. Each of them had thin arms and legs, unable to carry or lift anything. If they didn't train properly, when they actually faced the battlefield, they wouldn't even be able to lift a gun, let alone fight. Guns. Zhao Pengfei seemed to have unlocked some keyword, making all the new recruits' eyes light up with excitement. That's right. Guns are almost every man's romance. Which boy didn't have a toy gun at home? The kind that glows red in front and makes a baby sound? Well, Qin Feng had one when he was little. And it wasn't a handgun. It was a cool, double-handed submachine gun that looked really stylish. You could say that even when he was still wearing open-crotch pants, Qin Feng was already the coolest kid among his peers. At that time, he actually had the idea that he must hold a real gun when he grew up. This seed, planted in his childhood, slowly took root and grew into his love for soldiers and the military. However, reality often plays tricks on you. Many people dream of joining the military but can't for various reasons. On the other hand, some people are reluctant to serve but manage to get into the army effortlessly. Therefore, when Qin Feng had the opportunity to handle a real gun, he was naturally overjoyed. Of course, aside from Qin Feng, many others joined the military with the same goal of being able to touch a gun. As a child, loving to play with guns is instinctual. As an adult, enjoying guns is even more of a natural inclination. Men often have an inexplicable fascination with hard, dark objects. They remain true to their original intentions and stay focused. Squad leader, will we really have the chance to handle guns? Of course. But one thing, you all must be honest and obedient, train well. And as long as you follow my instructions, I guarantee you will all get to touch a gun. Zhao Pengfei's words were like a reassurance pill, making everyone even more excited. Even Li Jiaxing seemed invigorated, his face full of enthusiasm. He joined the military precisely to shoot guns. Although there are many shooting clubs domestically where you can pay to experience shooting, those limited venues hardly provide any real enjoyment of shooting. At most, you just hear the sound. But at that moment, Qin Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes internally because he knew the squad leader was just talking nonsense. Once you join the military, regardless of whether you're a good or bad soldier, you can handle a gun. Although new recruits may only shoot 5 bullets, training with guns and running with them on your back is quite common. Not handling a gun while in the military is like a chef claiming they've never touched a ladle. Of course, some special positions indeed have fewer opportunities to shoot, but occasionally handling a gun and firing a few rounds during assessments is not a problem at all. Watching everyone's heightened spirits, Zhao Pengfei wore a smug smile. A bunch of new recruits, believing everything he said, were easy to fool. However, when his gaze landed on Qin Feng, he furrowed his brow slightly. Sensing the unusual reaction, Qin Feng immediately put on an excited expression to cooperate. Zhao Pengfei nodded slightly, and once his gaze moved away, Qin Feng quickly returned to his previous calm demeanor. He was just playing along, making sure to not appear oblivious. Soon, Zhao Pengfei instructed everyone to find their spots and prepare to do push-ups. Although the dormitory space was limited, fortunately, doing push-ups didn't take up much room. Some were on the ground, while others could do it directly on the bed. Zhao Pengfei led the group, counting out loud as everyone followed along. 100 push-ups was merely a warm-up for an experienced soldier like him. However, for a group of new recruits who usually lacked exercise, it felt like a life-or-death challenge. Each person's form was as bizarre as it could get, some with their butts in the air, others bending awkwardly. Chen Sanchi, for instance, went all out with a butterfly flapping motion, pretending to fly like a bird. Meanwhile, he complained, I can't do it anymore, really can't do it, really can't do it. After completing over 40, Qin Feng started to feel strained. Although he could replicate the squad leader's movements and techniques perfectly, the difference in physical fitness was not something that could be compensated for in a short time. Even with the passive ability of Taiyang Xingjian, which allowed him to grow faster than others, he couldn't expect to achieve results overnight. Of course, apart from Zhao Pengfei, some in the 4th squad were managing the push-ups more easily. Is doing push-ups really that hard? Don't you just need to use your hands? Qi Meng, though not tall or muscular, was surprisingly agile. He moved up and down like a pump, quickly and energetically. He even showed off with a trendy mid-air clap when he got up, which amazed everyone, but Zhao Pengfei quickly kicked him hard. Not only did he add 100 more push-ups, but he also sat on Qi Meng's back, claiming it was a way to add weight. Then Qi Meng, like an old donkey grinding a mill, could no longer show off and was pressed down several times by Zhao Pengfei, unable to move at all. Just do your push-ups properly, why are you showing off? For the others, if they couldn't continue, They could rest on their hands, but were not allowed to lie down. Anyone who lay down would do 20 extra. After saying that, Zhao Pengfei finally got off Qi Ming's back. Freed from that weight, Qi Ming immediately came back to life. Gasping for air, Qin Feng glanced over and thought, "Don't show off. Showing off brings disaster." At that moment, Zhao Pengfei wandered around the dormitory with his hands behind his back, like a restless spirit. He randomly selected a lucky recruit, stopping in front of him, taking his stinky foot out of his slippers, and waving it back and forth in front of the new soldier. He called it a test of composure and willpower. Damn it, it's already tough enough to do physical training at night. Now you want to test our willpower with this kind of biological attack? It was utterly outrageous. A wave of unpleasant odor filled the air, and many recruits accidentally inhaled the harmful gas during their push-ups, collapsing to the ground like cockroaches sprayed with insecticide. Some even foaming at the mouth. No one can handle it. Everyone is too weak. Seeing that more than half of the new recruits in the squad had already dropped out, Zhao Pengfei felt utterly bored. Suddenly, he turned his gaze to Qin Feng, a mischievous grin appearing at the corners of his mouth. "Let's see how much you can endure." In reality, Qin Feng wasn't doing push-ups on the ground, but was on his own bed. Yet, even being up high, he couldn't escape Zhao Pengfei's antics. Zhao Pengfei approached the foot of Qin Feng's bed and employed his tricks once more. He took out his stinky foot from his slipper and raised it up like a proud rooster. Damn it! Looking at the foot nearly touching his face, Qin Feng genuinely wanted to chop it off and stew it like a braised trotters. But at that moment, all he could do was hold his breath and pretend not to see it. Noticing that Qin Feng seemed completely unaffected, Zhao Pengfei was quite displeased. "Fine. If you're going to hold out, I want to see how long you can last." He then inched his foot closer. Using his big toe and the one next to it, he began to rub them together repeatedly, allowing the unpleasant smell hidden in the gaps between his toes to fully waft out. Qin Feng's face turned red from holding his breath, cursing inwardly. Why does this guy have so many tricks? But he wasn't someone to easily give in. As Qi Ming would say, he wanted to see who could hold out longer. Just as Qin Feng turned his head to the side, Zhao Pengfei's foot followed closely behind. Qin Feng cursed internally again, helplessly turning his head to the other side. Just when he thought he could catch a breath, Zhao Pengfei, like a child, brought his foot back again. Clearly, he was also in a contest of wills with Qin Feng. The air in his lungs was slowly being drained, and Qin Feng's face was turning purple. On top of that, he had to keep doing push-ups. At that moment, Qin Feng finally reached his physical limit. "I can't hold on any longer." Almost at the instant he was about to break, an indescribable stench surged up. It felt as if someone had punched him in the nose, and his mind was starting to short-circuit. With a loud thud, he finally couldn't hold on any longer and fell onto the bed like a free fall. The smell hit Qin Feng so hard that tears were almost streaming down his face, looking utterly defeated. "Squad leader, when was the last time you washed your feet?" Zhao Pengfei burst into laughter, and like a victorious cowboy, he raised his foot in front of him and pretentiously blew on it. "I just washed them a couple of days ago." Damn it, they cramped up. Watching Zhao Pengfei clutching his cramping calf, bouncing around the dorm like a chicken, Qin Feng couldn't help but laugh, and the other recruits joined in with grins. "Serves you right. Now you know how it feels." After finishing the push-ups and resting for a bit, they immediately started sit-ups. However, this time Zhao Pengfei learned his lesson. He didn't pull any more tricks, but seriously supervised everyone. Considering the new recruits had just arrived and their bodies weren't used to it yet, he reduced the sit-ups from 100 to 50. The squats were also cut in half. However, even so, most people still feel exhausted and sore all over. This is the aftermath of suddenly exercising after a long period of inactivity. Nevertheless, it's not a big deal. Nowadays, military training is very scientific. In the beginning, the training isn't too intense. It's all about gradual progression. Once everyone's bodies adapt, the intensity will gradually increase. So, strictly speaking, the training over the past 2 or 3 days has just been preparatory work before the formal training begins, and the training volume won't be too large. As night fell, the stars shone brightly. The bright moonlight draped a beautiful silver cloak over the new recruits' barracks. In the dormitory of the 4th squad, the sound of snoring filled the air, and the new recruits had all sorts of sleeping postures. This was their first time away from home. And after an 8-hour train ride and more than 2 hours on a bus, everyone was already physically and mentally exhausted. The 3 sets of 100 exercises before bed acted like a sleeping pill fed to them by the squad leader, allowing the already tired recruits to sleep even more soundly. Qin Feng's bed was by the window, but at this moment, he lay with his hands behind his head, gazing at the stars and lost in thought. Although he had always dreamed of joining the military in his previous life, wanting to be a soldier and actually being in the military are 2 completely different matters. Reality is not a TV drama, nor is it a novel. Military life is always accompanied by endless hardships and tears. Eyes wide open, busy until lights out. Eyes closed, stay alert. This is a true reflection of the daily life of most soldiers in peacetime. Although Qin Feng understood that glory lies in the ordinary and that the arduous journey is long, for him, with a system at his disposal, he was destined not to be associated with mediocrity in this life. Although currently, Qin Feng knew nothing and was just an insignificant spark, he firmly believed that in the near future, he would surely blaze into a roaring fire. Filled with enthusiasm and hope, Qin Feng closed his eyes with a smile. Yet, just as he began to drift into sleep, he suddenly heard a rustling sound, resembling the noise a mouse makes when it steals food at night. Curious, Qin Feng turned his head to locate the sound. By the moonlight, he indeed saw a rat with glowing green eyes squatting on the ground, clutching a plastic bag and greedily munching away. As it ate, it was even shedding tears of joy, exclaiming, so delicious, it's really aromatic with vinegar. Chapter 6. Slapped in the face. No one escapes the law of deliciousness. Contemporary philosopher Professor Wang Jingzhe once said that no one can escape the law of deliciousness. When you say you would rather jump off the building than eat a certain item, you will inevitably trigger a causal law and get slapped in the face. And the rat in the dormitory, stealing food with its glowing green eyes, is none other than Li Jiaxing, who comes from a wealthy family and prides himself on being superior to others. In fact, he was already a bit hungry earlier in the cafeteria. Although the noodles weren't to his taste, they were far from inedible. Otherwise, this dish would have long since disappeared from the culinary scene. It can only be said that the local delicacies have their own unique characteristics. It is worth mentioning that during school years, many young people like to force themselves into a certain persona. For instance, during his school days, Li Jiaxing liked to claim that he had never eaten a certain local dish. If anyone brought it up, he would pretend not to know about it at all. The intention was to showcase his uniqueness and difference. However, in reality, he had secretly eaten that dish countless times and often wondered why something so cheap could be so delicious. But there is nothing to be done. When you're out, reputation is self-given. After all, his family is wealthy. With money, one should dine at high-end restaurants and enjoy upscale cuisine. I mean, I'm a second-generation coal miner. How could I be seen eating a local dish in front of others? Or they might think I'm poor. Therefore, for many years, Li Jiaxing maintained a high-quality persona. Even when going out to have fun and posting on social media, he had to carefully curate his posts with perfect arrangements and must include coordinates in English to appear sophisticated. However, Qin Feng wanted to say that the military educates every picky and pretentious child equally. Acting out and being dramatic would inevitably lead to a reality check. Fortunately, Li Jiaxing wasn't foolish enough to starve himself just to maintain his persona. In just about 10 seconds, he wolfed down the leftover noodles. He even made sure to slurp up the soup from the plastic bag. He was genuinely hungry, so very hungry. If he hadn't had physical training that night, he might have been able to hold it together. But after completing a rigorous workout, he could no longer bear it. Tossing and turning in bed, he couldn't fall asleep, his mind filled with the incessant thoughts of food. Thankfully, finishing the noodles made him feel much better. But just as Li Jiaxing turned around, ready to sneak back to bed, he suddenly noticed Qin Feng propped up on one elbow, looking at him with a half smile. Although the dormitory was pitch black, the light from the street lamps outside allowed him to see the brightness in Qin Feng's eyes. Damn, this guy hadn't even slept. Li Jiaxing immediately felt like he'd been caught sneaking a snack. After all, he had previously claimed that the food was terrible and vowed never to eat it. Li Jiaxing's toes almost dug into the floor as he hesitated, but eventually gave Qin Feng a shushing gesture. Was it good? Qin Feng asked with a smile. Li Jiaxing's mouth twitched as he awkwardly forced a smile. It's, not bad, I guess. It's edible. Qin Feng shook his head. TSK, why bother? Li Jiaxing actually wanted to slap himself, but since he had already eaten, he whispered, just don't tell anyone else. Okay, we definitely won't say anything. The first part was what Qin Feng said, but the latter was what others had said. Indeed, the dormitory is now filled with people who are awake. All of them laughing so hard they could almost split their mouths. Li Jiaxing is baffled. Damn, how come no one is asleep? Qi Meng is holding his belly, tears of laughter streaming down his face. I was asleep, but woke up when I heard a mouse stealing food. Ha ha. A burst of laughter disturbed the night. Even the insects outside fell silent. Quiet down, everyone. The other classes need to rest. We have training tomorrow, so hurry up and sleep. Zhao Pingfei quickly reprimanded. Clearly he hadn't slept either. After bringing back noodles in a plastic bag, he had been waiting for this moment. After being hungry all day, how could they still be picky about food? He wanted to see if they would eat when they were really starving. Li Jiaxing replied with a pained expression and climbed back into bed. The dormitory fell quiet again, but only for 2 seconds. A series of snickers erupted, quickly merging into another round of laughter. So funny, ha ha. They didn't eat in the cafeteria, but sneakily ate at night. Just like little mice stealing oil, ha ha. Listening to everyone's unabashed mockery, Li Jiaxing's face turned bright red. He could only cover his head with the blanket, secretly hiding inside and wiping his tears. Seeing Li Jiaqing looking like an ostrich, head buried in the blanket with his but sticking out, Qin Feng also laughed heartily. But this was actually good. The school hadn't taught him, but the army would take care of it. At least, this kid's picky eating habit seemed to have been cured. At 1 o'clock in the morning, everyone in class 4 had fallen back asleep. Zhao Pengfei's biological clock woke him up. Outside the window, the occasional chirping of insects seemed to tell the story of the entire summer that had passed. In September, autumn had already arrived, and there could be a temperature difference of over 10 degrees between day and night. Zhao Pengfei, not wearing slippers, walked barefoot on the cold floor tiles. Yet even without shoes, his movements were still light, like a cat walking. He approached a bed where Qin Sanchi was lying sprawled out. Drool was dripping from the corner of his mouth, and the blanket had fallen to the floor at some point. Zhao Pengfei shook his head with a smile, gently adjusting his limbs. He picked up the blanket from the floor and covered him, but only over his belly. It's a habit ingrained in every descendant of Yin and Huang to cover their belly while sleeping. Otherwise, they would surely have stomach issues the next day. Zhao Pengfei looked around at the various sleeping postures of the new recruits on the beds, a smile of reminiscence appearing on his face. Back when he first joined the army, it was the old squad leader who used to cover him with a blanket at night. 10 years had passed in a flash. He had left his sweat and youth on this land he loved. Similarly, he had grown from a naive seedling into a tall tree. Now, he felt more like he was taking care of the younger version of himself from 10 years ago. The feeling of being in a different world, as if time had looped back, made him take a deep breath. 10 years. How many 10-year periods are there in a lifetime? Would any of them become like him in 10 years? In the quiet of the night, the cerebral cortex is most active, and it's also a time when thoughts can easily run wild. Zhao Pengfei shook his head, trying to clear his mind of unnecessary thoughts, and then covered a new recruit with a blanket before moving to the next bed. Qin Feng's sleeping posture wasn't very good. He preferred to sleep on his side, hugging the blanket. For him, this was the most comfortable and secure position. When he felt the blanket move slightly, he immediately opened his eyes alertly. But when he saw it was the squad leader, he froze for a moment. He then remembered the tradition in the army of squad leaders covering blankets in the middle of the night. Shoo! Zhao Pengfei smiled and made a shushing gesture, signaling him to continue sleeping. Qin Feng nodded and pressed his head back onto the pillow, but he quietly opened one eye. The act of a squad leader helping to cover blankets at night might seem like a small story to many who didn't understand it. But once you experience it, you realize it's not simply about getting up to cover a blanket as if completing a task. The faint light outside cast Zhao Pengfei's shadow on the wall. His movements were gentle and soft, as if he were handling newborn babies. At the same time, Qin Feng noticed that Zhao Pengfei was barefoot on the tile floor, likely to avoid making noise and disturbing everyone. Qin Feng suddenly realized that this seemingly irritable squad leader also had a gentle side. With a smile, he drifted back into a dream. This time, he had a dream where he saved many people in an accident. He dreamed of wearing a big red flower, appearing on television, while his parents sat below, tears in their eyes, applauding for him. He was awarded a first-class merit medal, and many unfamiliar senior officers saluted him in gratitude. In a daze, Qin Feng didn't know how long he had been asleep. He only knew he was sleeping soundly. Just then, a glaring incandescent light turned on, followed by a barrage of shouting. "Are you all pigs? It's already 5:30 and you're still asleep? Get up. All of you. I'll count to 3, and if you're still lying there, don't blame me for being rude. 1, 2, 3. Qin Feng opened his eyes to find Zhao Pengfei, like a stick of dynamite, kicking at several new recruits still in bed. Even the blankets were roughly yanked to the ground. He was a completely different person from the warm-hearted figure of the night. Qin Feng, still drowsy, sat up in bed, scratched his back, and yawned. Was this contrast too much? Were you possessed by something dirty last night? I don't care who you are. Hurry up and get back to being the warm-hearted squad leader. Qin Feng, are you meditating here? Get up and tidy your belongings. Qin Feng quickly jumped out of bed, narrowly avoiding Zhao Pengfei's kick. Just as he secretly felt pleased with how fast he was, Zhao Pengfei, that guy who doesn't play by the rules, came up and gave him a solid hit. He actually dared to dodge? Hurry up and get dressed. Qin Feng covered his head, wincing in pain. Damn it. That veteran really hits hard. Chapter 7. Let's start the class. We're here to listen on our knees. I really regret it now. In the dorm, Li Jiaqing threw the neatly folded blanket onto the floor, sighing heavily. Regret what? Qin Sanchi looked at him in confusion. What else is there to regret? I regret watching 2 episodes of a TV series and then running off to join the army. Li Jiaqing's face was full of helplessness. It seemed that joining the army was the biggest mistake of his life. Is it just because the noodles didn't taste good? Qi Meng teased with a smile. Li Jiaqing shot him an annoyed glare. If you can't talk properly, then don't speak at all. From now on, if anyone brings up the noodles again, I'll be furious. TCH. Qi Meng rolled his eyes and ignored him. Anyway, He had no good feelings towards this rich young master. So pretentious. As if he wanted everyone to know how wealthy his family was. At this moment, Li Jiaxing looked like the tragic heroine from a Qiangyao drama, once again lamenting his fate. In the TV series, the character went to the army for love, became a troublemaker, and was even appreciated enough to be the company commander's clerk. What about me? What do I gain from this? My family has no worries about food or drink, and I get thousands in pocket money every month. I sleep on imported latex mattresses, enjoy high-end air conditioning, and have everything handed to me. My dad promised that as long as I casually attend a private university, he'd buy me an Audi A6 for my birthday next year. Yet here I am, being stubborn and joining the army instead of enjoying a good life. Li Jiaxing held his forehead, full of regret. I really do regret it now. I want to go back and slap myself twice for being so foolish. Even though every word from Li Jiaxing was about showing off his wealth, the phrase about regretting joining the army resonated with a few others. Although their family conditions were much worse than his, and they didn't have any luxury cars, the negative emotions were relatable. Honestly, I also feel a bit regretful, like I'm just looking for trouble. Ah, you're right, it's like being in a cage. With rules everywhere. You have to sit properly, stand properly. Even eating requires shouting for what they call meal tickets repeatedly. If I hadn't joined the army, I'd probably still be at an internet cafe playing games all night, with my golden Alaska and my fire unicorn. I bet I'd still be at home enjoying the air conditioning, wrapped in a blanket reading novels. I still have hundreds of beautiful teachers waiting for me in my cloud storage. Can I borrow a volume to speak? The negative emotions seemed to be contagious, enveloping everyone. Even Qin Sanchi felt a bit lost, not knowing why he joined the army in the first place. When they first entered the camp, it was the time when the new recruits felt the most confused and regretted their decision the most. This kind of regret wouldn't diminish with time. In fact, it would only grow. However, by the middle of the training period in the new recruits company, the intensity of the training gradually increased. Basically, everyone was so exhausted that they fell asleep as soon as they hit the bed, with no one thinking about any random matters. Looking outside at the dim sky that was just beginning to lighten, and then at the poorly folded blanket in hand, everyone let out a sigh of frustration. Yet, Qin Feng remained unaffected by this wave of negativity, diligently working on his blanket. His demeanor felt somewhat out of place compared to the others. Moreover, when everyone was complaining, he had not spoken a word, which made the new recruits even more convinced that Qin Feng must have many stories to tell. Qin Feng, I heard you on the phone yesterday. You seem quite popular out there. Why did you come to the army? Someone couldn't contain their curiosity and asked. Following that, the others in the squad looked at Qin Feng with eager eyes, as if to say, I don't have a drink, but do you have a story? Facing the curious gazes from everyone, Qin Feng helplessly paused his actions. In fact, he really did not want to discuss this topic. The original person's penchant for romantic entanglements had nothing to do with him. Moreover, he had already moved on from it decisively. When the squad leader asked yesterday, he had just laughed it off. He didn't expect these guys to bring it up again. Indeed, age does not determine ambition, and gossip knows no gender. So he casually made up a reason. To escape from romantic debts. Escape from romantic debts? Everyone looked stunned. Even Li Jiaxing widened his eyes in surprise. This answer clearly surpassed their understanding at this age. What are romantic debts? Tell us about it. Qin Sanchi was ignited by curiosity and quickly pressed for more details. Qin Feng, with a serious face, fabricated a story. About 4 months ago, on my 18th birthday, a bunch of girls fought over who would celebrate my birthday and give me gifts at the school gate. Are you serious? Of course. Qin Feng continued with his serious facade. A group of girls rolled around on the ground. Their clothes got torn, and they almost attracted the attention of the authorities. Wait. Qi Ming seemed to have found a crucial point. Did they know each other? Qin Feng nodded, of course. They were the kind of best friends who could run barefoot on the road, promising never to be apart and always to stay together. 2 of them were even the school beauties from the neighboring school. Wow. This exclamation came from Zhao Pengfei, who had been eavesdropping outside the door. He had gone to the restroom and returned just in time to hear the new recruits boasting instead of properly folding their blankets. Originally, Zhao Pengfei was prepared to burst in and scold them. However, upon hearing someone ask Qin Feng why he joined the army, he thought about how this guy had been dodging the truth with him yesterday. Thus, he decided to play the role of a silent observer and listen in for a while. Many young recruits are cautious around veteran soldiers and squad leaders, but they don't guard against their peers. But he never expected that the reason Qin Feng joined the army would be so shocking. Avoiding emotional debts? What a frustrating phrase. If you have such a skill, why not become a relationship coach and help single men instead of joining the military? It's really a case of the droughts and floods affecting everyone. This bizarre reason for enlisting is something he has never encountered in his life. Meanwhile, a group of new recruits in the dormitory looked at him with sparkling eyes, completely in awe. In contrast, What Li Jiaxing just mentioned about buying an Audi and having a few thousand in pocket money each month seemed utterly weak. What level is he at? His schoolflower friend was fighting to give him gifts. He could even go toe-to-toe with the legendary figure in their circles. You have to know that many of those who join the army at this age are still single and have never even held a girl's hand. Just being looked at by a woman on the street would make them blush and feel shy. But Qin Feng, to avoid emotional debts, came all the way here. They would never dare to think about such things, even in their dreams. Looking at the admiration in everyone's eyes, Qin Feng's eyelids twitched. Such an absurd story. And you all actually believe it? This is straight out of a movie. Haven't you all heard of the youth pain literature by that famous author? Well, Qin Feng actually hasn't read it either, but such a bad script must have been heard of, right? In fact, everyone had their doubts in their hearts. But when they thought about Qin Feng's calm demeanor when he made 5 or 6 calls last night, confidently cutting off his romantic interests, it was hard for them to doubt his capabilities. After all, his status was evident. Just like if you were worth hundreds of millions. Even if you wear a fake Rolex, others will assume it's real. Shen Sanchi was immediately captivated by Qin Feng's rich romantic experience. Qi Ming gave him a thumbs up, repeatedly exclaiming awesome. But this made Li Jiaxing feel extremely uncomfortable, as if he were sitting on pins and needles. In the past, his relationships were filled with warmth and care, the warmest among warm men. He never stopped giving gifts like cosmetics and bags during holidays. Yet despite all that investment, those girls wouldn't even buy him a bottle of water. They would say things like, "Your money is my money, but my money is still mine." It's only natural for boys to spend on girls, and even if I'm wrong, you can't yell at me. At that moment, Li Jiaxing felt as if he had been splashed in the face with something warm and yellow. Damn it, we are all men. Why are you so exceptional? Where did I fall short as an ordinary guy from a second-tier background? Where did I lose? What is going on? Did I ask you to fold blankets? Did I ask you to use your mouths? Just then, Zhao Pengfei walked in with a stern expression, hands behind his back. The group that had just been chatting quickly pretended to be seriously folding blankets. They occasionally furrowed their brows and gestured with their hands in the air, looking as serious as they could, resembling how they usually act while slacking off at work. Please take it seriously and think carefully about how I taught you yesterday. After breakfast, I will check everyone's living conditions. If you don't meet the standards, you can handle it yourselves. Upon hearing Zhao Pengfei's words, no one dared to be negligent. Everyone hurriedly stopped slacking off and focused on making their beds properly. First press, then fold, and finally tidy up. In just 15 minutes, they managed to produce a pile of mess. What the heck, what's wrong? The steps are the same, so why does everyone end up with different results? Looking at the unsightly beds in front of them, they could only take them apart. They silently prayed to the deity responsible for bed making, hoping to get it right quickly and avoid punishment from the squad leader. Although Qin Feng was already quite skilled, he still deliberately kept pace with everyone to fit in. Hearing the late wake-up call, many started to grumble. The regulations clearly stated to wake up at 6 to tidy up. So why did they have to get up before 5? Why? There's no reason, because this is the military. It's different from what you find online, from TV dramas and novels. There are no endless battles, no mindless confrontations with superiors. What exists are just the never-ending beds to fold and the endless chores to manage. 20 minutes later, a gathering whistle echoed from downstairs. Everyone, gather downstairs and prepare for morning exercises. Chapter 8. In the intertwined time-space, inheriting beliefs morning exercises. For all new recruits. It is a very fresh term. Of course, it doesn't refer to the morning exercises from school. Instead, it means going out for drills. Typically, in the early days of the recruit company, morning exercises involve a light 3-kilometer run, plus some simple physical training. There are actually many similar military jargon. For example, on the track means on the running track. Hanging on the bar means being hung on the horizontal bar. As for being called up by the squad leader, it literally means to be lifted for tasks. All recruits in the 4th squad quickly secured their belts, put on their hats, and hurried downstairs to gather. Zhao Pengfei, as the squad leader, naturally followed everyone down. However, he was not in camo but had changed into the standard military uniform. Many people often can't tell the difference between camo and standard military uniforms. Simply put, camo is worn during daily training, while the standard uniform is for formal occasions like going out or meetings. It's somewhat similar to the difference between casual sportswear and formal suits. The recruits gathered downstairs and formed a simple line before being led by the company commander to the flag-raising platform. Align right. Look forward. At ease. Attention. With a series of commands, the new recruits' formation became somewhat more orderly. However, there were still quite a few who weren't standing straight and were secretly fidgeting. Of course, this was unavoidable. It was the first day for the new recruits in the camp. Although they were already in military uniforms, strictly speaking, they are just social youths wrapped in a military shell. Though they seem to be in the barracks, their hearts are still wandering outside. Gu Xiong stood at the front of the line and spoke sternly to everyone. Today marks the first day of official training for the new recruits. And it is also the first day you will begin your transformation from ordinary youths into soldiers. Wearing this uniform signifies that you must shoulder the hopes of the nation and the people. From this moment on, your name consists of only 2 words, soldier. Therefore, you must always remember that as a member of the People's Liberation Army, you must be strict with yourselves. Your words and actions, your standing, walking, sitting, and lying down, all represent the image of the country. These words made many new recruits unconsciously puff out their chests. Their previously dazed expressions, due to lack of sleep, gained a bit of spirit. After all, they now represent the image of the nation. At this moment, a duty officer approached the company commander and saluted. Comrade Commander, the flag-raising ceremony is ready. Please instruct us on whether to begin. Begin. Immediately, a sound of synchronized footsteps echoed in everyone's ears. To the right front, a formation composed of veteran squad leaders marched steadily towards the flag-raising platform. At the front of the formation, holding the flag, was none other than squad leader Zhao Pengfei. He was the one among all veteran squad leaders with the most standard marching movements, naturally chosen to be the flag bearer. The other squad leaders followed closely behind, all stepping in unison, exuding a dignified demeanor. March in place. With the command to march in place, Zhao Pengfei's gaze instantly sharpened, like a sword being drawn from its sheath. Their entire aura changed, exuding a solemn and inviolable atmosphere. Their steps transitioned from a casual march to a sharp, high-stepping march. Thud, thud, thud. The sound of polished shoes striking the concrete floor was crisp and resonant. All the new recruits held their breath at this moment, afraid that even their breathing would disturb the march. Zhao Pengfei and 2 other squad leaders ascended the flag platform, securing the flag at the bottom of the rope. Then, they carefully shook the flag to ensure it would unfurl smoothly. Play the national anthem. As a solemn melody familiar to all children of the nation began to play, Zhao Pengfei vigorously waved his right hand. A vibrant flag billowed in the wind like ink splashed across a canvas. Almost simultaneously, Gu Xiong shouted solemnly, "Salute." Below the flag platform, all new recruits quickly raised their right hands. Following him, they solemnly saluted the flag that was slowly rising. In this moment, every new recruit's expression became grave. Their chests were puffed out, and their backs straightened as if a stick had been inserted. Qin Feng was no exception, his chest nearly bursting out of his camouflage uniform. The flag-raising ceremony was held every Monday from elementary school to high school. Yet, never had any ceremony made Qin Feng's hair stand on end, with blood boiling in his chest. The flag was still the same flag, and the song was still the same song. But at this moment, everyone's state of mind was completely different from before. This complex emotion was instilled in them by their military uniforms. In the past, we grew up wearing red scarves, accompanied by the national flag. Now, dressed in military attire, we have become the ones who guard the flag. The sense of pride, honor, and an unprecedented sense of mission filled the hearts of every recruit. Even Li Jiaxing, who had previously wallowed in self-pity and expressed regret about joining the military, felt his heart pounding and his raised right hand trembling slightly. Soon, that bright red flag slowly rose to the top. It fluttered in the wind, making a sound like a tiger's roar or a dragon's chant, cutting through the air. At that moment, a beam of morning light fell on the flag, making the golden glimmers hidden within the bright red even more dazzling. Time seemed to freeze at that moment, then began to rewind. In front of the flag-raising platform stood not a group of vibrant young people, but a group of elderly men in old-fashioned green military uniforms, wearing red shoulder insignia, with gentle and kind faces. Look, this flag is truly beautiful. Yes, breathtakingly beautiful. Moving to the core. Brothers, our blood has not been shed in vain. We did not sacrifice ourselves for nothing, ha ha ha. Young ones, if you have the chance, go to the Forbidden City for us. I've heard watching the flag raising there is even more beautiful. Time and space intertwined, light and shadow overlapped. In front of the flag-raising platform, many recruits, including Qin Feng, felt their eyes inexplicably welling up. A strong sense of reluctance and sadness spread in everyone's hearts. They all knew the origin of the flag's colors, stained red with the blood of their predecessors. Those who sacrificed for the next generation, countless martyrs to follow. At this moment, they were saluting the flag, while also paying tribute to those who shed their blood for the motherland. Salute. Gu Xiong shouted salute twice. The first time, many people did not hear it. It was only after the second shout that everyone broke free from that complex emotion. At this moment, every recruit felt a heavy weight on their shoulders. This was the responsibility given to them by their military uniforms, as well as the burden brought by their identity as soldiers. Many people at this moment gained a deeper understanding of why they came to join the military and why it was necessary to serve. The country needs soldiers. Peace cannot exist without soldiers. At this time, Gu Xiong did not scold the recruits for not responding to the command promptly. Instead, he wore a smile on his face and felt a bit of comfort in his heart. A strong youth means a strong country. He saw hope in these young people and a prosperous future for the motherland. This was what he, as the squad leader of the new recruits, hoped for. It was what the country and the people hoped for, and it was what those who shed their blood for the nation hoped for as well. After the flag-raising ceremony concluded, Gu Xiong returned to his serious demeanor and shouted loudly, "Everyone, 3 kilometers, light load, right turn, march." At the command, the originally orderly formation unraveled like a pulled sweater. Follow the class order and rush onto the runway behind the leading duty officer. However, many people still occasionally look back. They gaze at the flagpole, at the flag fluttering in the wind. Qin Feng is the first to turn around among everyone. He always feels that this flag seems to have some magical power. As long as it flutters there, it can soothe every restless soul. Just then, Qin Feng's body jolts, and his expression suddenly changes. A stirring and passionate song suddenly blares from the loudspeaker on the rooftop. It's the Strong Army Anthem. Listen, the horn for the new journey has sounded. The Strong Army's goals call out ahead. The nation must be strong, and we must take on responsibility. The battle flag is filled with iron-blooded glory. At this moment, Qin Feng feels as if he has been forcibly injected with energy, his blood surging. His steps are firm and decisive, and his arms swing powerfully. Behind him, countless hands are pushing him forward, driving him onward, with passion, to the mountains and rivers. In military uniform, a lifetime of heroism. Wherever his gaze lands is all for the homeland, and every shining star is for faith. From this moment on, Qin Feng officially begins his military career, writing his own legendary chapter. Chen Sanchi, are you some ridiculous thing folded up like a quilt? Laughing, what is so funny? Keep laughing, and I'll knock all your teeth out. When you join the unit, if someone asks who taught you to fold quilts, don't say it was me. If they ask who your squad leader is, just say your squad leader is dead. During the internal inspection, Chen Sanchi gets splattered in the face by Zhao Pengfei's saliva. Everyone else is trembling, too afraid to speak. Only Qin Feng remains calm, completely unfazed. Chapter 9. Squad Leader, why aren't you playing by the rules? Goodbye, Mom. Tonight I will set sail. Don't worry about me. I have the oars of joy and wisdom. One quilt after another takes flight in the air, tracing beautiful parabolas. Then, with a loud thud, they crash onto the ground. In the 4th Squad dormitory, half of the people have already had their quilts rebel and run away from home. Just because their internal organization didn't meet Zhao Pengfei's ideal standards, they faced a scolding, and their quilts took off on the spot. The remaining half of the new recruits who have not yet been inspected are now all on edge, treading on thin ice, because no one knows what awaits them next. At this moment, Zhao Pengfei has walked to Qi Meng's bed. He glances at the messy quilt on his bed and then grins at him. Qi Meng is taken aback and awkwardly forces a smile in response. Then, without saying anything, Zhao Pengfei takes his quilt and leaves. When he returns, his hands are empty. Qi Meng's eyes widen in disbelief. Squad leader, my quilt. To the restroom. Hearing Zhao Pengfei say these 2 words expressionlessly, everyone is astonished. Throwing it down from upstairs is already over the line, and now he is throwing it into the restroom? This isn't a mop. And it's definitely not a diaper. If it gets stained with anything, how much trouble will that cause? Zhao Pengfei doesn't bother to explain further, even too lazy to waste words. He originally thought that Chen Sanchi's blanket was the worst in the world, but he didn't expect someone to be even worse. No exaggeration. Even if Zhao Pengfei used his feet, he could fold it 100 times better than this guy. At this moment, Zhao Pengfei walked straight to Li Jiaxing's bed and showed a hint of surprise in his eyes. Although this guy was a bit restless and liked to show off, his blanket folding was still passable, at least a little better than others. Well, it had a bit of shape, but the edges were not quite right. The corners were crooked, and the overall shape was slightly off. Thank you for the compliment, squad leader. Next time, I will definitely fold it better. Li Jiaxing raised his chin, proudly glancing around. He looked just like the smug expression of Wang Yuxing from the TV drama Liang Jian. In fact, before coming to the army, he had specifically searched for videos online and practiced folding blankets at home. The goal was naturally to stand out from others right from the start, to gain the appreciation of the squad leader and even the company commander, thereby making a name for himself in the army. Li Jiaxing had long heard that leaders in the army preferred soldiers with good internal affairs. If he could earn the title of Model Internal Affairs Soldier, maybe the squad leader would even invite him to smoke together. Li Jiaxing actually didn't smoke. But coming to the army meant adapting to local customs. Leaders like to smoke. If you didn't join in, how could you integrate? Besides, was he really looking forward to smoking? No. He was looking forward to the envy and jealousy on others' faces when they smelled the smoke after he returned from smoking. That kind of spiritual pleasure brought him much more joy than money or material things. As he imagined what it would be like if the squad leader lit a cigarette for him, whether he should hold it with his left hand or his right hand. Suddenly, whoosh, something flew past him. Li Jiaxing turned his head and was shocked to find that his blanket had been thrown out of the window by the squad leader and landed in the corridor. Zhao Pengfei squinted his eyes and smiled. Sorry, although your folding is a bit better than others, to me, it's still a pile of garbage. It's still not qualified. Nap time is cancelled. Li Jiaxing was stunned on the spot, his face turning green. Were the internal affairs requirements for new recruits this strict? He clearly thought he had folded it quite well. Before entering the army, he had even taken pictures to verify his blanket folding skills and posted them online, receiving lots of likes and praises. Even veterans commented, saying that if he maintained this level, promotion was only a matter of time. Li Jiaxing thought it shouldn't be his problem, but rather that Zhao Pengfei's standards were too harsh. Perhaps if his blanket were in another squad, it would be considered a model blanket. Thinking of this, Li Jiaxing felt a lot better. Moreover, his blanket was only thrown into the corridor, not thrown down the stairs or into the bathroom. This indicated that, so far, his internal affairs level was still the best among everyone in the 4th squad. With the boost from the spiritual victory method, Li Jiaxing felt a bit smug. But the next second, he couldn't feel proud anymore. Not bad, very good. Li Jiaxing turned his head at the sound and found the class leader standing in front of Qin Feng's bed, smiling and nodding. Looking at Qin Feng's neatly arranged quilt, it indeed seemed a bit better than his own. Damn it, how did he manage to outdo me again? Is this guy here just to undermine me? At that moment, Zhao Pengfei looked at the quilt on Qin Feng's bed and became increasingly satisfied. It was clear that it had been done with care, with the edges and corners also well arranged. However, with a sudden motion, Zhao Pengfei yanked the quilt off and roughly tossed it to the ground, as if he were discarding a used tissue. Qin Feng was stunned. What does this mean? All right, you threw my quilt? Zhao Pengfei seemed to sense Qin Feng's thoughts and casually patted him, saying, mainly, I'm afraid you'll get too proud. Besides, everyone else's has been tossed. Why should yours be spared? Doesn't seem right, does it? Qin Feng was indeed a bit speechless. This reasoning was impeccable. If the quilt was poorly arranged, it should be thrown away and criticized for motivation. If it was well done, it should still be tossed to prevent pride. And since everyone else's was tossed, how could his be the exception? This was truly taking the concept of collective punishment to the extreme. Looking at the quilt on the floor, Qin Feng couldn't help but feel a bit puzzled. It seemed that the class leader's inspection of the dormitory had no fixed standards at all. It was simply based on whims. However, what Qin Feng didn't realize was that Zhao Pengfei paid more attention to the collective standard of the whole class rather than individual performance. If only 1 or 2 were outstanding while the rest were lackluster, it wouldn't be useful at all. Therefore, Zhao Pengfei planned to pick a leader to serve as the deputy class leader. By placing the responsibility on someone's shoulders, that person would have to lead everyone forward. Dare to stop? Well, then Zhao Pengfei would have to crack the whip. He glanced at his watch and sternly said, 1 minute. Pick up the quilts, and then we'll have a brief meeting. Move quickly. Everyone immediately rushed out of the dormitory to retrieve their quilts. Qi Meng, fearing that his quilt might get ruined, hurried to the restroom. Li Jiaxing, slightly calmer, smilingly returned with his quilt after a stroll down the corridor. But when he saw that Qin Feng hadn't even moved, merely bending down to pick up the quilt, his eyelids couldn't help but twitch a couple of times. This guy must have secretly practiced before coming to the army, just like I did. Otherwise, how could he fold a quilt so well? Right, it must be that. Li Jiaxing attributed this small failure to the idea that Qin Feng had also practiced secretly, which made his fragile heart feel a bit better. However, at that moment, Qin Feng was feeling slightly displeased. Originally, he thought that with his experiences from 2 lifetimes and the help of his golden finger, he should be able to easily navigate the various little tricks within the military. But now he realized that these veterans didn't seem to follow any rules at all. For instance, when he picked up chopsticks, one would think he was going to eat, but instead, he went to the restroom and returned with 2 roasted ducks. No logic. No pattern. One moment here, another there, leaving people puzzled and on guard. It seems we need a brave soul to tackle all the challenges. But where to find such a person? It has to be someone who loves to show off and be in the spotlight. Someone who would still smile while counting money even after being sold out. Suddenly, Qin Feng revealed a smile, as if he had found a very suitable candidate. Chapter 10. Shaoli, both the monitor and I have high hopes for you. After everyone quickly returned with their blankets, some had grass stuck to theirs, while others had leaves. Qi Meng was quite the exception. His blanket had a large wet patch. He cautiously brought the damp part close to his nose and sniffed it. Next to him, Qin Feng's expression turned to one of utter disdain, reminiscent of an elderly person on the subway looking at a phone. Is it smelly? Chen Sanchi leaned over, curious. No smell at all. Really? You don't believe me? Smell it yourself. With that, Qi Meng shoved the damp part of the blanket towards Chen Sanchi's nose. Ugh, you're lying, it stinks. Chen Sanchi covered his nose and took a big step back, like he had been startled. Ha ha, you actually believed it. Qi Meng, having successfully pranked someone, was overjoyed. What are you laughing at? Are you proud of being thrown in the toilet? Zhao Pengfei kicked Qi Ming, who immediately quieted down. Seeing Qi Ming get his comeuppance, Chen Sanchi burst into laughter. Then came the classic scene of villagers kicking each other. A size 42 shoe print appeared on Chen Sanchi's backside as well. After a round of kicks, it felt like the whole world had quieted down. Zhao Pengfei shot a glance at the two of them, then checked his watch. It was 7:45, and it was about time. He instructed everyone to sit down on the stools before speaking in a cold tone. Let us keep it simple. We're going to elect a vice monitor, so if anyone thinks they can take on the responsibility, please step up. Zhao Pengfei's concise statement stirred quite a commotion in the fourth squad. The new recruits had heard about the selection of a vice monitor. In the past, the new recruit squad had both a monitor and a vice monitor, both held by veterans. However, it had since changed to only a monitor, with the vice monitor being selected from the new recruits. Who wants to give it a try and challenge themselves? As soon as Zhao Pengfei finished speaking, Li Jiaxing jumped up like a spring-loaded toy. Report, monitor. I want to be the vice monitor. If I'm elected, I will lead everyone. Zhao Pengfei raised his hand to stop him. He didn't want to hear this kid bragging. Damn it, he can't go 3 sentences without mentioning his wealthy family. It's so annoying. Li Jiaxing is one. Anyone else want to volunteer? He turned to Qi Ming. Qi Ming, do you have any thoughts? Qi Ming awkwardly stood up, glancing around. Can I do it? How would I know if I don't try? I think I'll pass. Looking at his neatly folded blanket, Qi Ming felt that he might not quite qualify. Although he excelled in physical training and even dared to compete with veterans, he truly struggled with internal affairs and managing class discipline. Zhao Pengfei did not press the issue, as everyone has their own aspirations. Chen Sanchi was actually quite interested in trying, but Zhao Pengfei selectively ignored him. Is there anyone else who wants to be chosen? Zhao Pengfei's gaze swept over the crowd and lingered on Qin Feng for a long time. He even signaled with his eyes that he was optimistic about him and urged him to stand up quickly. The reason he wanted Qin Feng to be the vice class leader was also clear. Although this guy had a bit of a flirtatious reputation outside, he was neither frivolous nor impetuous. Instead, he gave off a sense of maturity beyond his age, especially during yesterday's self-introduction, while other recruits were either reserved, shy, or boastful. Qin Feng was natural and at ease. Not only did he humorously tease Zhao Pengfei, but he also managed to create a pleasant atmosphere in the class. He had high emotional intelligence and was easy to get along with. This was Zhao Pengfei's initial assessment of Qin Feng, and it was no wonder he was popular with the opposite sex. Of course, that was only one aspect. Qin Feng's ability in internal affairs was currently the best in the class. There's a saying in the military, the vice class leader is solely responsible for internal affairs. The main responsibility of the vice class leader is to manage class hygiene and assist the class leader in completing tasks. Therefore, no matter how you looked at it, Qin Feng was undoubtedly the best candidate for the vice class leader position, bar none. However, despite Zhao Pengfei practically sending Morse code signals with his eyes, this guy continued to act as if he hadn't seen anything and remained still. Since that was the case, he had to take the initiative. Qin Feng, you folded your blanket well. Do you want to give it a try? Qin Feng knew that Zhao Pengfei wanted him to take on the role of vice class leader, but he had no intention of doing so. Class leader, I feel that my current abilities are insufficient to take on the role of vice class leader. I shouldn't overestimate myself. Zhao Pengfei frowned slightly. This guy actually didn't want to. He coaxed, Qin Feng, this is the first opportunity in the military. Skills can be developed over time. Everyone starts from scratch, right? Qin Feng rejected again. Class leader, I still feel that I am not capable of such a heavy responsibility. He turned to Li Jiansheng. Moreover, I believe that in our class, Comrade Li Jiansheng is the most suitable for the position of vice class leader. His family has resources. Zhao Pengfei's eyelids twitched fiercely. This guy didn't even want to find an excuse to recommend himself, just randomly pulling one out. Li Jiansheng was clearly caught off guard by Qin Feng's recommendation. Previously, he had even considered Qin Feng as his hypothetical rival. After all, in the entire 4th class, only Qin Feng could match him in terms of internal affairs. But now, this guy not only actively withdrew but also nominated him for the vice class leader position. Good. It seems this guy knows his place. However, Li Jiansheng was unaware that Qin Feng was not withdrawing from the competition. He was simply not interested at all. First of all, the position of vice squad leader is essentially a nominal role, lasting only the 3 months of the new recruit training. Once you leave the squad, no one pays attention to you. If you do well, it's simply part of your duty. If you don't perform well, or if something goes wrong midway, you become the scapegoat. Additionally, the vice squad leader has to work closely with the squad leader, catching every ball passed their way. Right now, Qin Feng has just entered the military and is still unfamiliar with many things. It's impossible for him to perfectly catch every ball thrown by the squad leader. Moreover, Zhao Pengfei has a somewhat cunning personality and a lot of tricks up his sleeve. This is evident from his behavior in the cafeteria, where he cleverly took food and packed it away, deliberately enticing Li Jiaxing, the big rat, to show his true self at night. Also, He throws his blanket on the floor to avoid feeling proud, which shows his nature. As for the reason Qin Feng just declined, it was actually quite truthful. Given his current capabilities, he is indeed not sufficient to earn everyone's respect. Therefore, rather than struggling to take on the role of vice squad leader, Qin Feng might as well focus more on training and showcase himself better in other areas. Let Li Jiaxing deal with those responsibilities and tricks. Young people should be given more opportunities to shine. Squad leader, I think what Qin Feng said is very correct. Li Jiaxing began to show off again. I used to be a class committee member in school, and I've sat in on meetings at my dad's company. So I have quite a bit of experience in personnel management and work arrangements. Plus, I've thoroughly read The Way of the Wolf and The Art of War, so my understanding of the big picture is much stronger than others. If I were elected vice squad leader, I would definitely be able to cooperate with you and lead the 4th squad to a better tomorrow. Zhao Pengfei's eyes twitched. He really wanted to stuff a stinky sock in this guy's mouth. Completely ignoring Li Jiaxing, he focused intently on Qin Feng and said, Qin Feng, are you sure you don't want to be the vice squad leader? You know how many people want this position but can't get it. This is a huge honor, if you get it. Facing Zhao Pengfei's endless persuasion, which sounded like a professional sales pitch, Qin Feng remained unfazed and responded lightly. Squad leader, I appreciate your good intentions, but I really don't have the ability to take on this role right now. Besides, with such an excellent comrade like Li Jiaxing here, I'd rather not show off my inadequacies. After all, he has read The Way of the Wolf, and his family really has a luxury car. Below, Chen Sanqi nudged Qi Meng with his elbow and quietly asked, Qi Meng, what is a Maybach? Are you kidding? You don't know? It's a type of coffee. Coffee. Have you ever had it? Of course. It costs over $30 a cup. It tastes bad enough, and it's ridiculously expensive. Damn. You guys are talking about Starbucks, right? Maybach is the highest end, most luxurious car from Mercedes-Benz. It's a car worth millions, and you're comparing it to coffee that costs a few bucks. You guys are something else. Li Jiaxing shouted wildly in his heart, but no one could hear him. At this moment, Zhao Pengfei sighed helplessly. This kid, Qin Feng, was as slippery as an eel. He had already said so much, yet he still wouldn't agree. Either they truly don't understand, or they are overly ambitious and look down on others. A forced relationship will not be sweet. Qin Feng is unwilling to comply, and he can't just impose his will. Therefore, in the end, it can only be a matter of picking the tallest among the short. Li Jiaxing, I must tell you, you are currently just an acting vice class leader. If you don't perform well, I will dismiss you. Don't worry, I promise I can do well. Li Jiaxing patted his chest and made a solemn vow. In school, he managed dozens of people without any issues, so how hard could it be with 9? Even if he were just a vice class leader, he assured that he could handle a squad leader's role without any problems. The first step in his military career was this easy. It would surely get smoother from here. Once he gets his phone back on the weekend, Li Jiaxing must call his friends and family to show off. However, in the entire 4th class, apart from Li Jiaxing's excitement, everyone else was quite indifferent. The reason is simple. In school, class committee members are usually not well liked. They tend to be close to teachers and enjoy reporting on others, which can be quite annoying. Although there is an essential difference between the military and school, some principles are still applicable. Moreover, with the internet being so developed, many people know that the vice class leader in the new recruits company is a temporary position. The authority is granted by the class leader and does not hold much weight. If they're in a good mood, they might call you vice class leader. If not, who even cares? Therefore, everyone didn't take Li Jiaxing's position seriously. Instead, it was Qin Feng's humble attitude and his initiative to recommend others that earned him everyone's goodwill. A show-off, always talking about how wealthy his family is, versus a low-key, humble person who is easygoing and serious about his work without any airs. Any normal person would naturally prefer the latter. Alright, let's gather downstairs and prepare for the drill. As Zhao Pengfei's voice fell, everyone immediately returned their stools to their places, fastening their belts while rushing outside. Just as Qin Feng reached the stairway, someone suddenly called out to him. Turning back, he realized it was Li Jiaxing. Is there something? The vice class leader wants to speak to you privately. Li Jiaxing cleared his throat and spoke in an official tone. Ahem, I was very pleased that you chose me earlier in the dormitory. It shows that you have good judgment. Rest assured, when the opportunity arises, you will definitely benefit from this. Additionally, I hope you can actively cooperate with me to complete the tasks assigned by the class leader and contribute to our 4th class family. Qin Feng chuckled. This guy is adapting to his role quite quickly. It seems he must have done this kind of thing frequently in school. Well then, do your best. Both the class leader and I have high hopes for you. Saying this, Qin Feng naturally patted him on the shoulder and turned to head downstairs. The motion was smooth, like that of an elder. Surprisingly, Li Jiaxing instinctively responded, but his expression quickly froze. Wait, what do you mean by both the class leader and I have high hopes for you? What does that mean? Who exactly is the class officer here? Chapter 11. Entrapment Tactics. Deceiving with Simple Commands? Attention. Stand at ease. The recruits of class 4 are undergoing command training on the playground. Command training involves responding with the appropriate actions when receiving orders from superiors. For instance, commands like stand at ease, attention, and look left or right. Most people have experienced this during military training in high school. However, the training in the military is undoubtedly more rigorous than the routine exercises in school. Look right. Face forward. Chen Sanchi's response was slightly slower, leading to an immediate reprimand from Zhao Pengfei, who was right in his face. A barrage of harsh words rained down on Chen Sanchi, leaving him almost speechless. Clearly, no leniency was shown to this fellow villager. Zhao Pengfei scanned the group with a stern voice, reprimanding them. You can't even manage something as simple as following commands. Are you all made of wood? I won't even mention those who couldn't tell left from right or failed to execute the movements correctly during the training. But from now on, if I catch anyone slipping up again, it's 10 push-ups. The group tensed up, their already frayed nerves tightening further. Right turn. At the command, everyone immediately pivoted on their right heel, using their left foot to quickly close the gap, making a loud clap as their feet came together. Not bad. Can't pick on that. With a straight face, Zhao Pengfei continued issuing commands. Half right turn. Everyone executed a 45-degree turn to the right, maintaining the standard. After a series of commands with no issues, Zhao Pengfei decided to increase the difficulty. He quickly issued several commands in succession before suddenly calling for a stop. To the left, Zhao Pengfei deliberately elongated the command. However, before he could finish, Chen Sanchi and 2 other recruits had already turned prematurely. What are you doing? Who told you to move? What did I just say? You only react after the command is fully given. Are you deaf or just not thinking? Down 10 push-ups. The 3 recruits begrudgingly lay on the ground, starting to struggle through their push-ups. Qin Feng glanced over and immediately realized that Zhao Pengfei was about to start employing entrapment tactics. In fact, this is a common method used in military training. First, several commands are issued rapidly to keep everyone on high alert, leaving no time for thought. Then, the pace suddenly slows down, catching them off guard. This is akin to certain international competitions, where some participants, due to extreme tension, jump the gun upon hearing the word ready. It's a reflex mechanism governed by the nervous system, not by conscious thought. Therefore, avoiding this trap is quite challenging. Zhao Pengfei's aim with this approach is clearly to instill the commands into muscle memory through continuous punishment. At the moment muscle memory is formed, even if you are asleep, upon hearing the command to stand at attention, your body will react before your brain does. In peacetime, some might think this is unnecessary. Even if there's a delay of 0.5 seconds, is it really that big of a deal? But in wartime, a command to take cover can indeed save countless lives. At this moment, Zhao Pengfei alternated various commands rapidly, leaving everyone confused. Left turn, right turn, about face, stand at attention, at ease, suddenly. Zhao Pengfei mouthed the command for at ease without making a sound. This sneaky tactic nearly caused the entire squad to fail. Since everyone was facing Zhao Pengfei from the last movement, they were all focused on his lip movements to confirm the command and make a preemptive judgment. This led to Zhao Pengfei's feint, tricking everyone into moving their left foot. Damn it, you jerk, you're playing us. The 9 of them lay flat on the ground, reluctantly accepting punishment, while each one internally cursed Zhao Pengfei's ancestors. This guy wasn't training them. It was more like training a dog. So disgraceful. Zhao Pengfei smiled as he watched the new recruits doing push-ups, feeling quite pleased. He knew exactly what they were thinking about him. After all, they all came from the same rookie ranks, who didn't know each other. But so what? He enjoyed the feeling of being looked down upon, yet still having everyone obey him. At this moment, Zhao Pengfei's gaze landed on the only one standing in the squad. The only person who hadn't fallen for his tricks since training began, Qin Feng. This kid had really sharp reflexes. As long as the last word of the command didn't come out, Qin Feng wouldn't react at all. His ability to make quick judgments and responses in the blink of an eye was due to the system, Taiyang Xingjian, subtly strengthening his mind, intelligence, body, and spirit. It allowed his brain to make the calmest judgment at the most chaotic moments. Even if Zhao Pengfei played this game all day, Qin Feng could easily keep up. However, it was clear that Qin Feng had somewhat underestimated the old soldier's tactics. Next, we will practice the salute action. The salute is a form of military etiquette, one of the most basic courtesies in the military. Saluting usually includes hand salutes, attention salutes, rifle salutes, and sword salutes. The hand salute and attention salute are needed during the morning flag-raising ceremony. However, many of you are performing the actions very poorly, which is disrespectful to your identity as soldiers and a desecration of that flag. This last sentence made everyone's heart skip a beat, revealing awkward expressions. Although the salute is something everyone frequently sees, in everyday life, ordinary people hardly ever use it. Most of the gestures for saluting are learned from films and then imitated. In fact, Even Qin Feng is unsure if the salute he performed during the flag-raising ceremony can be considered standard. After all, it's his first time as a soldier. Just like most newcomers, his understanding of saluting is still limited to using the right hand and keeping the fingers together. Now let me demonstrate. Upon hearing the command to salute, the upper body stands straight, the right hand quickly rises, fingers together and naturally extended. When wearing a hat, the middle finger lightly touches the right corner of the brim about 2 centimeters in front, roughly at the same height as the eyebrows. The palm faces down, slightly angled outward by about 20 degrees. The wrist must not bend, and the right upper arm is somewhat level, forming a line with the shoulders while simultaneously gazing at the recipient of the salute. Originally, just listening to the text description didn't provide much of a visual impression. However, when they saw Zhao Pengfei's right hand move upward swiftly like a knife, their eyes lit up immediately. The momentum Zhao Pengfei exhibited while saluting was like a sword drawn from its sheath, imposing and majestic. It was at this moment that the new recruits in Squad 4 understood that the same action performed by a rookie and a veteran could show such a significant difference. But Qin Feng knew that behind every seemingly simple action were countless days and nights of practice by the veterans and endless sweat. The road ahead is still long, and there is much to learn. Even with the system's assistance, there are many hardships he must endure. At this moment, it seemed that Zhao Pengfei heard Qin Feng's thoughts and quickly responded. He lowered his hand and continued. When you hear the command to end the salute, those who salute will lower their hands. Those who stand at attention will straighten their heads and maintain a proper posture. This is the complete saluting and ending process. Applause erupted in the room. Although Zhao Pengfei enjoyed teasing people, it didn't hinder everyone's admiration for him. After all, his previous salute was indeed impressive. In the local dialect, it can be described as very cool. All right, stop. Zhao Pengfei smiled and waved his hands in the air. The applause ceased instantly, and his face returned to seriousness. Stand at attention, relax. Next, follow my command and salute. 1, 2. Everyone mimicked the squad leader's actions, raising their hands vigorously. Bodies straightened, chests puffed out, and eyes brightened. Chen Sanqi, Qi Meng, you two are a bit slow. And salute, do it again. Salute. Li Jiaxing, where the heck is your hand going? And you over there, stop laughing. Be serious. All right, and salute. Now let's do it a few more times. With each command, everyone raised and lowered their hands repeatedly. The mechanical repetition was relentless, and their arms began to feel sore. Take a quick 20-second break, shake your arms, and loosen your shoulders. Hurry up. Everyone scrambled to stretch their arms and shoulders, and Qin Feng was no exception. Saluting too much really made the arms sore. Fortunately, the system helped with recovery, so he was doing much better than others. All right, time us up. Salute. Hearing the squad leader's command, everyone once again raised their right hand in salute. But this time, they waited for a full half hour without hearing the squad leader call for the salute to be finished. Chapter 12. This little drill is too wild, too bold. Damn it, fooled again. During the break, everyone in the 4th squad rubbed their arms and legs, grimacing in pain. At that moment, they fully understood what it meant. The squad leader's words are deceitful. Earlier, Zhao Pengfei had made everyone experience the salute without finishing it. Then, he had everyone feel what it was like to squat without standing up. If the former was an ordeal for the arms, the latter was like squatting on a mountain of knives and a sea of fire. Only those who have experienced squat training know how tough it is. After more than 10 minutes, the leg being pressed down would become painfully numb, as if 1,000 needles were stabbing and 10,000 ants were crawling. You wanted to move, but dared not. Anyone caught moving would incur an additional 5 minutes of punishment for the whole group. What was supposed to be a 20-minute squat training ended up doubling. Moreover, Zhao Pengfei very ceremoniously gave this punishment a pleasant name. One person gets sick, the whole group gets a shot. Perhaps others could take advantage of Zhao Pengfei's inattention to relax a bit and then tighten up their bodies when he approached, pretending to be serious. But Qin Feng never slackened for a moment. Since he chose this path, he would persistently walk it through. Sweating now means less bloodshed in battle later. Only when soldiers endure all hardships can the common people and the nation be spared from the suffering of war. As the ancients said, when heaven is about to bestow a great responsibility on a person, it will first temper their will and labor their bones. What Qin Feng is currently experiencing is just the initial process. Therefore, he can only endure pain and find joy in it. As for starving the body, strictly speaking, that does not exist in the military. The military canteen serves meals punctually, and the food standard is quite good, even exceeding that of 99% of ordinary families nationwide. Suddenly, a whistle sounded. All squads, gather for duty. As the duty officer shouted, some members of each squad immediately left the line and ran over. Qin Feng, here, go gather. Yes. Qin Feng also left the line and quickly ran over to assemble. The so-called duty is to go to the canteen in advance to get meals before the official mealtime. Every member of the class takes turns, one person per day. The purpose of this is to save time and improve meal efficiency. After all, it would be too wasteful to wait until the soldiers finish training and then go in one by one to get their food. Soon, the duty personnel from each squad followed the duty officer and lined up to walk toward the canteen. As soon as they entered the canteen, a rich aroma of food, mixed with the fragrance of freshly cooked rice, wafted toward them. Silverware is in the disinfection cabinet. Be quick about it, the veteran squad leader said. And immediately everyone from the duty squad dispersed. Qin Feng did not choose to rush to get his bowl and chopsticks with the others. Instead, he was specifically waiting at the serving area. As soon as the veterans from the cooking team brought out the steaming dishes, he immediately grabbed a large ladle to serve. Why the rush? Because those who serve first often have more options. Take the pot of chicken and potatoes, for example. Most people definitely love chicken legs, wings, and the meaty breast. Parts like the neck, head, and feet, which have little meat and waste a lot of time, are naturally not favored. Qin Feng quickly filled his bowl with the relatively better cuts of meat. Potatoes were included as a side, but there were very few. After filling his bowl, Qin Feng didn't rush to put it back. Instead, he immediately focused on the braised pork beside him. Put it all in my bowl, with 2 big scoops. His bowl was brimming with meat. A veteran from the cooking team saw this and couldn't help but blink twice in disbelief. This kid is really ruthless. With 1 scoop, he was practically wiping everything out. He glanced at the other newbies still foolishly lining up for soup and rice, feeling a mix of speechlessness. They were all new recruits, but the smart ones stood out from the dull ones. However, was this kid being a bit too clever? In a large bowl of stir-fried beef with green peppers, he actually picked out all the beef, leaving not a single piece of pepper. Damn, I'm still here. And you dare to do this? If I weren't here, would you have taken the whole bowl away? Which team are you from? Who taught you to serve like this? Veteran Su Chao asked, glaring. Qin Feng paused for a moment, then slightly restrained himself, symbolically serving a few green peppers. He then smiled and asked, Squad leader, are these green peppers of the Yurjing variety? Su Chao immediately frowned. Who is your squad leader? What is their name? Squad leader. Are these peppers spicy? We have quite a few people from the south in our squad who can't handle spicy food. I asked you which team you're from. What is your squad leader's name? Our squad leader doesn't seem to handle spicy food very well either. Su Chao was truly speechless. This kid was completely dodging the questions, answering with irrelevant responses. After going in circles, he still wouldn't say which team he was from or his squad leader's name. You better cut it out. The other teams haven't served yet. Got it, squad leader. Watching Qin Feng carry 3 large bowls of meat to Team 4's table, Su Chao's expression immediately darkened. Good job, Zhao Pengfei, encouraging the newbies to do this. You really aren't afraid of getting beaten up. This was entirely a little trick Qin Feng had summarized from serving breakfast that morning. It was just like going to a buffet. You always go for the seafood and salmon first, grabbing the most expensive and popular items. Who would rush for noodles, bread, or fried rice right away? That would be pure foolishness. Qin Feng understood this principle. So he took advantage of the fact that the dishes hadn't been delivered from the kitchen yet, and that others were still getting their rice and utensils, seizing the opportunity to act first. By this time, the other teams had finished serving their rice and started to get their dishes. But because Qin Feng was so quick, no one noticed his sneaky operation. At this moment, he was using the little tricks he learned online to serve soup from a large bucket. Qin Feng slowly dipped the spoon to the bottom of the bucket, gently pushed it, and then scooped it up along the edge. In the spoon, apart from a small amount of tomatoes, it was filled with egg flowers. Qin Feng was pleased. Wasn't this just another dish? In the unit, the staple foods were rice and steamed buns, catering to the taste differences between regions. Moreover, there was plenty. You could have as much as you wanted. That's why Qin Feng saved the staple food for last. Once all the preparations were done, he stood by the table, waiting patiently. Soon, loud singing could be heard outside the dining hall. Learning from yesterday's lesson, the new recruits sang with extra enthusiasm this time. Additionally, the song was short and catchy, so the meal tickets were distributed smoothly. Each class entered the dining hall one after another, sitting down as instructed. But when Zhao Pengfei saw the dishes on the table, he was dumbfounded. After so many years in the unit, he knew exactly what the kitchen usually cooked. But today, why were the dishes so substantial? Braised chicken with potatoes, all chicken. Braised pork with tofu skin, all meat. Especially the stir-fried beef with peppers. Usually, there were at least twice as many peppers as beef. But today it was the opposite. He looked at the seemingly harmless Qin Feng and then turned to other tables, quickly realizing from the expressions of several squad leaders what was going on. This kid had guts. Good, I like it. Zhao Pengfei couldn't help but smile widely. Qin Feng, you did well. The veteran cooks didn't even ask which class you were in? Qin Feng raised his head. They did ask, and they also asked who my squad leader was. Zhao Pengfei became interested. Oh? What did you say? Qin Feng said seriously. I said our squad leader can't handle spicy food. Zhao Pengfei was taken aback for a second and then burst into laughter. Not bad. You understand what it means to answer a question with a different question. Although Zhao Pengfei's laughter wasn't loud, a few nearby squad leaders turned to look. When they saw the food on Class 4's table, their faces turned green with anger. Damn it, Zhao Pengfei, you little sneak, actually pulled a surprise attack. No wonder today's braised chicken seemed to be all potatoes. The braised pork with tofu skin was all tofu skin. They almost thought that the stir-fried beef with peppers had forgotten to include the beef. Suddenly, the small duties of each class became the target of criticism, and they were sure to face a scolding. Moreover, it wasn't just the squad leaders who would scold them. Everyone in the class would join in. Man is iron. Rice is steel. If you miss a meal, you'll feel anxious. Training was already exhausting enough, and now making the whole class eat vegetarian? Who else would they scold but you? However, this was actually an unspoken rule in the unit. The higher-ups had always turned a blind eye to it. Competition was necessary in the army. With competition, there would be progress. We are all tough guys. If you can't even outserve others when getting food, you deserve to go hungry. In many cases, the scene of students serving food resembles a battlefield. It's common to hear insults, and shoving and kicking are quite normal. If the student on duty doesn't serve the food well, they will definitely face the wrath of the class leader. Here, a reward for you. Zhao Pengfei stood up and placed a piece of roasted meat into Qin Feng's bowl. Thank you, class leader. Qin Feng didn't hold back his gratitude, as he deserved it. The others in the class looked at Qin Feng with admiration. Even when they went out to eat at a buffet, they wouldn't dare to act like this. Firstly, they felt embarrassed. Secondly, they were afraid. And thirdly, they feared getting beaten up. Although this behavior might seem unfair to other classes, so what? The bold thrive, while the timid starve. If they had the skills, let their class's student on duty learn from Qin Feng. Could they do it? Just like that, Qin Feng's status in the eyes of the whole class skyrocketed. Especially for a few food lovers, Qin Feng's action struck a chord with them. After all, he had genuinely brought substantial benefits to everyone in the class. However, one person was gnashing their teeth in frustration, feeling as if they had just downed a bottle of strong vinegar. This person was the vice class leader, Li Jiaxing, who wielded considerable power. It was just a few extra pieces of meat. What was there to be smug about? If it were me, I could do it too. At that moment, a quail egg suddenly appeared in Li Jiaxing's bowl. He looked up in surprise and found that it was Zhao Pengfei who had placed it there for him. This made him overjoyed, and he perked up. Thank you. Class leader. Zhao Pengfei nodded expressionlessly. Yes, do well, I believe in you. Li Jiaxing, filled with excitement from the class leader's affirmation, quickly popped the quail egg into his mouth and couldn't help but cast a mocking glance at Qin Feng, as if to say, don't get too proud. I have what you have. But Qin Feng couldn't help but show a strange expression. Just moments ago, he had seen that quail egg slip from Zhao Pengfei's chopsticks. After rolling under the table, he had accidentally kicked it. Following the principle of never wasting food, Zhao Pengfei picked up the quail egg and rewarded it to Li Jiaxing. Remembering how Li Jiaxing had stealthily eaten noodles the previous night, Qin Feng suddenly thought, perhaps this guy was a garbage bin in his past life. Chapter 13. Is Qin Feng selfish? The whole class learns from him. If you can't stand at attention properly, how can you serve food? Class leader, I'm afraid the veterans will say something to me. Would losing a piece of meat make a difference if they say a few words? Look at the fourth class, full of meat in their bowls. And then look at you, just potatoes. Class leader, I serve quite a bit of meat too. How dare you say that? It's all chicken necks, chicken feet, and chicken heads. I want to fill my stomach, not just have a drink. Get down immediately, 300 push-ups, learn your lesson. As soon as they returned to the dormitory after eating in the cafeteria, they heard insults from various classes echoing throughout the building. Several classes' small duty officers have been scolded and punished for their inefficiency. Qin Feng naturally heard about it. But to say he felt guilty? Not at all. The military is inherently a competitive environment. If one lacks skill, they can only blame themselves. The bold thrive, while the timid starve. This is the experience Qin Feng gained from years of navigating the workplace in his previous life. Being overly honest has never been a compliment. Only those who dare to take risks can gain more. Moreover, it's just a matter of eating a bit less meat. It won't starve anyone. There are still other dishes with meat available. Besides, the small duty of serving food is like a battle, something veterans are already accustomed to. It's just the new recruits who are apprehensive and hesitant, which is why Qin Feng happened to take advantage of the situation. Experience is gained from setbacks. This tactic may not work next time. However, Qin Feng is not worried at all. Tomorrow, the small duty officer for Class 4 is Qi Meng. When our side sends out a martial arts student, how will you respond? As soon as everyone returned to the dormitory, they immediately gathered around Qin Feng with smiles. Qin Feng, thanks to you, we got to eat so much meat at noon. If I hadn't seen the bottom of the bowl with the bean curd skin, I would have thought this was a plate of braised meat. Bro Feng, it would be great if you could be the small duty officer every day, that way. We could eat a lot of meat daily. As soon as Chen Sanchi finished speaking, a sudden cold snort came from nearby. Li Jiaxing, with an air of authority, criticized. Qin Sanchi, what kind of thought is that? Oh, so our class takes all the meat and the other classes don't eat? He then turned his criticism towards Qin Feng. Qin Feng, it's not just the vice class leader saying this. Your actions are purely selfish, which has a very negative impact. The military emphasizes unity, and unity is strength. Our class should actively promote the spirit of sharing, letting the other classes eat the meat. After all, isn't it being advocated to eat more vegetables now? Eating vegetables is healthy. Everyone rolled their eyes in response. Qi Ming didn't give him any face. Li Jiaxing, you ate the most meat at noon. There was a huge pile of chicken bones in front of you. Complaining about the cook after finishing your meal. That is really something. Li Jiaxing was instantly furious. How dare you speak to the vice class leader like that? But before he could retort, Qin Sanchi timidly said, I heard that there's a giant Buddha in Leshan, Sichuan. Do you want to go sit on it? Li Jiaxing glared at Qin Sanchi, his face turning pale with anger. This guy, Qi Ming, is simple-minded and physically strong. It's expected he wouldn't have much wisdom. But Qin Sanchi, with those thick eyebrows and big eyes, how come he is so quick-witted? Are you planning to take the postgraduate entrance exam? He snorted and kept his high-handed demeanor. What do you all understand? As the vice class leader, I must consider the bigger picture to prevent the situation from escalating. You all heard it just now. The small duty officers from other classes were scolded and punished. How do you think they feel? Aren't they going to hate our class? Moreover, if everyone were as selfish as Qin Feng, just imagine how good our class's food would be every day. Upon hearing this last sentence, everyone immediately turned their heads. Zhao Pengfei walked in with a smile, rubbing his belly. He then pulled Qin Feng in for a hug, patting him on the shoulder with a beaming expression while looking at everyone. Listen up. From now on, when it's your turn to serve meals, you all follow the standards set by Qin Feng today. In the army, you get your food based on your abilities. If you're slow, you deserve to go hungry. Do you understand? Yes. Everyone responded loudly, not forgetting to cast mocking glances at Li Jiaxing. They thought to themselves, the squad leader has already acknowledged Qin Feng. So who do you think you are? If you think you're capable, then don't eat meat. Just stick to vegetarian. At that moment, Li Jiaxing felt a burning shame on his face, as if he had been slapped several times in public. Yet, even so, he stubbornly believed he was right. Although Qin Feng's actions satisfied the appetites of the fourth squad, they had a very negative impact on the entire new recruit company, and could even lead to disdain for the fourth squad. As for his earlier meat consumption, it was mainly out of fear of wasting food. Li Jiaxing thought to himself, no, I must have a serious talk with Qin Feng about this later. He needs to recognize the seriousness of the situation and understand what it means to prioritize the collective. Qin Feng was unaware of Li Jiaxing's thoughts, and even if he knew, he wouldn't care. For him, he fulfilled his duties during the meal service and ensured everyone got more meat. As for what the other squads thought or whether they would get scolded, it had nothing to do with him. He was neither a saint nor a bodhisattva. As for prioritizing the collective, well, forget it. Zhao Pengfei continued. During the morning inspection, your bedding was a complete mess. Therefore, the lunch break is cancelled, and you will all collectively work on folding the bedding. The new recruits immediately frowned, filled with grievances. They placed great importance on their lunch break. Many had even searched online before joining the army. Whether it was recruitment propaganda, official information, or those responsible for physical examinations, they were all told that new recruits could take a lunch break. Typically, it was from 12:30 p.m. to 2:20 p.m. Although some veteran soldiers said that the lunch break for new recruits was just a formality and shouldn't be taken seriously, most people still held on to a glimmer of hope before the truth was revealed, especially Li Jiaxing. As a true local from Xishan, the saying if you don't nap at noon, you'll collapse in the afternoon was not just a joke. In certain parts of the Northwest, even businesses close for a nap after 2 p.m. Consequently, many tourists walking the streets around 2 or 3 p.m. struggle to find a place to eat, as all the shops are closed. Squad leader, could you please be a bit lenient and let everyone take a short nap? Li Jiaxing's insistence on napping far exceeded that of the average person. As the vice squad leader and the one closest to the squad leader, he felt it was his duty to advocate for the collective rights of everyone. Zhao Pengfei pondered for a moment before finally nodding in agreement. All right. But just as Li Jiaxing was pleasantly surprised, thinking he would soon be able to lie down and catch some sleep, Zhao Pengfei added another remark. Qin Feng can take a break. His blanket is the best folded among all of you. The others will continue as usual. Li Jiajin is dumbfounded. What is going on? How did I end up helping this kid Qin Feng secure a chance to nap? Li Jiajin really wishes he could slap himself. You just had to speak up, didn't you? Chapter 14. Qin Feng, who is really the vice monitor here. Qin Feng, don't snore when you sleep later. I want to take responsibility if you get punished. Zhao Pengfei grinned like an old fox, kindly reminding Qin Feng. Qin Feng responded, but didn't he show much. In fact, even without Li Jiajin's reminder, Zhao Pengfei would have brought it up. Why? It's simple. He wants to use Qin Feng as a benchmark. The principle is the same as when serving food in the cafeteria. If you have the ability, you can enjoy better treatment, like a nap. If you can't even fold your blanket properly, you deserve to work overtime during lunch. Zhao Pengfei has been in the military for many years, and his principle has always been to focus on the task, not the person. Any new recruit who can fold their blanket, as well as Qin Feng, would be allowed to nap during lunch without hesitation. The opportunity is there. Whether you seize it depends on your skills. Of course, Zhao Pengfei secretly set a trap. If Qin Feng dares to take off his clothes and get into bed, he will be pulled out and scolded without mercy. Normally, in the military, lying on the bed is not allowed except at night. Even sitting on the edge of the bed is prohibited. So, Zhao Pengfei is waiting for Qin Feng to make a mistake, so he can use him to educate the other recruits. Although it's quite cunning, that is Zhao Pengfei's way of leading troops. A little carrot and a big stick, keeping everyone guessing. However, Qin Feng didn't follow the script. Instead of foolishly taking off his clothes and getting into bed, he pulled out a small stool from under the bed and crouched down to take a nap beside it. He was quite self-aware. Zhao Pengfei's smile vanished, and his eyes widened. What is going on? Why isn't this kid playing by the rules? Zhao Pengfei intentionally guided him. Qin Feng, why don't you get into bed? It must be uncomfortable lying like that. Qin Feng looked up with an honest expression and said, Squad leader, it's not appropriate to sleep too comfortably during lunch. It will affect the afternoon training. I'll just rest my head for a bit. Zhao Pengfei's eyes twitched. This answer deserves full marks. There's not a single flaw to point out. He could only cough awkwardly and say to the others, let me emphasize one point. In the military, besides sleeping at night, you are not allowed to sit or lie on the bed at other times. Qin Feng's approach is correct, so if you have a nap in the future, follow his example. Everyone glanced at Qin Feng lying by the bed, quickly noting this down in their minds. So, in the military, you're not allowed to get into bed for a nap. Good to know. But it made Li Jiajian so jealous that he nearly ground his teeth to dust. From making the bed in the morning, to training in the morning, then serving food during duty, and finally taking a nap. The praise Qin Feng received was countless, as if he were the vice-class leader of Class 4. Meanwhile, he felt completely invisible, unable to find any sense of presence. This feeling made him very uncomfortable, extremely uncomfortable. Clearly, he was the most outstanding one in Class 4. Clearly, he was the vice-class leader. Why was it him who got to take a nap and receive praise? Is there still any fairness or justice? At that moment, Qin Feng, who was leaning by the bed, secretly breathed a sigh of relief. That was close. He almost fell into the trap. The routines in the military were indeed intricately connected. Fortunately, Qin Feng was mentally stable and did not become complacent due to the sudden reward. If he had just taken off his clothes and lay down on the bed, he would definitely have been pulled up and scolded. The saying was indeed correct. The most common experience in the military was the tricks of the class leader. Zhao Pengfei, that rascal, was full of schemes. He was someone you could never let your guard down around. As for how Qin Feng knew that one couldn't lie down during the military nap, it was thanks to a fantasy idol drama he had come across online in his previous life, which was themed around firefighting. The male lead was a firefighter who was either showing off or on the path to showing off every day. He would occasionally smile charmingly, showcasing his impressive jawline, much like a crooked-mouthed dragon king. In the drama, there was even a scene where the male lead used a fire extinguisher to create artificial snow in an underground parking lot, forcing the female lead to play along in a ridiculous romantic plot. Of course, this drama was criticized by the official firefighting social media account for stating that fire extinguishers were not toys. What left a deep impression on Qin Feng, and was criticized by countless netizens, was a scene where the male lead, during a nap, lay stiffly on the bed like a coffin board. Then, the comments section exploded with many former soldiers scolding the screenwriter for being foolish while providing real military knowledge. It was then that Qin Feng learned that in the military, one was not allowed to lie on the bed during a nap. If tired, one could only lean against the bed. Moreover, one could not take off their clothes or unfold the blanket. Otherwise, the class leader would directly promote them to a different position. It is worth mentioning that firefighters were part of the armed police sequence 8 years ago. The armed police were originally separated from the army, so various rules and regulations were generally similar. Additionally, during rescue operations, the presence of firefighters and soldiers was often seen together. Therefore, in the minds of many, they were essentially equivalent. This was also why that drama was criticized by countless netizens. At this moment, Qin Feng leaned against the bed, gradually emptying his mind. Once a person eats enough, they easily feel sleepy. Although he didn't know how long he could sleep, having some sleep was better than none. As for whether others would gossip behind his back, he didn't care at all. Qin Feng was never someone who liked to look back or ponder too much. Hesitation only leads to defeat. Doing well in his own role, focusing on training, obeying commands, and following orders, that was the standard of a good soldier in Qin Feng's heart. TSK, Li Jiaxing, who was struggling to fold the quilt, murmured softly while clicking his tongue. Let him sleep? Does he really think he can? There's no sense of collective awareness at all. Don't you think the squad leader is biased? They're all new recruits, so why is he treated so well? However, his complaints did not gain any support. Instead, a group of people began to counter him. Biased? Qin Feng folds his quilt so well. He deserves to rest during lunch. If you can do it, why not fold one yourself? Exactly. He risked being scolded to help us get so much meat. So what's wrong with him taking a nap? Shoo, everyone keep your voices down. Don't disturb Qin Feng's rest. Upon hearing Chen Sanchi's words, everyone nodded and quieted down. Even the movements of folding quilts slowed, becoming much gentler. This wasn't just for Qin Feng. Zhao Pengfei was also napping in his bed. As the veteran squad leader, taking a nap was his privilege. Therefore, everyone was also afraid of making noise and waking up the squad leader, which would invite a scolding. But in Li Jiaxing's eyes, it was different. He felt that everyone valued Qin Feng and overlooked his feelings as the deputy squad leader. He tried to act indifferent. But the disparity in his heart was overwhelming, driving him to the brink of madness. The late summer and early autumn sky resembled a child's face. One moment it was bright and sunny, and the next it turned gloomy. Dark clouds gathered in the sky, and soon a light rain began to fall. The concrete ground, which had been sunbaked for a long time, released a unique scent after being soaked by the rain. This scent also evoked childhood memories for many. In a half-asleep state, Qin Feng heard the sound of rain and smelled the familiar aroma. The next moment, it felt as if he had returned to the back seat of his childhood bicycle. Back then, he loved to bury his head, hiding behind his father's raincoat. He would stare intently at the ground, secretly guessing where they were headed. Was it the vegetable market or the power supply bureau, a turn or a downhill? Sometimes, Qin Feng would mischievously lift the raincoat like a groundhog, curiously looking around. If he guessed right, a victorious smile would appear on his face. If he guessed wrong, he would just cover his head with the raincoat and keep guessing. The journey home was long, and there would always be times when he guessed correctly. Time's wheel kept turning forward. As the child on the back seat gradually grew up, the one pedaling the bike became increasingly tired. That happy little world hidden under the raincoat became a beautiful memory that every grown child could never return to. Suddenly, a gust of warm wind blew in, scattering the world he had woven in his half-dream. Qin Feng felt an itch in his nose. In a daze, he seemed to hear someone calling. Chungu, where did this dream go? Did I just end up at the audition for Supergirl? Qin Feng, still groggy, opened his eyes and was startled to jump up from the stool the next second. He saw Chen Sanchi lying flat on the ground like a ghost, looking up at him with a silly grin. I knew you weren't asleep. Feng Gu, get up, the sun is shining on your backside. Qin Feng's eyelids twitched violently. It just dawned on me that what I just heard wasn't from Spring Brother, but from Wind Brother. Chen Sanchi, what do you want? Chen Sanchi quickly got up from the ground, scratching his head in embarrassment. I want you to teach me how to make my bed. Us too. Qi Ming and the others also laughed and gathered around. It was clear they had encouraged Chen Sanchi to call Qin Feng up. Looking at the eager expressions of the group wanting to learn and improve, Qin Feng sighed helplessly. He thought to himself, why not ask Deputy Class Leader Li for help? Their bed-making skills are quite good too. Oh well, since I've already slept for a while, I probably won't be able to fall asleep again. Since I have nothing to do, let us just fold the blankets together. Alright, everyone come over. Chapter 15. Can standing at attention also involve wits? A rain shower extinguished the heat and brought the coolness of autumn. The playground was damp, and stepping on it produced a squelching sound. Fortunately, the rain was light and only slightly moistened the ground, so it didn't feel particularly muddy. Instead, it added a unique flavor to the afternoon training session. On the playground, each class was organizing their training. Class 4 was training in the southeast corner of the playground. Unlike the command training in the morning, the afternoon session focused on drill movements. Specifically, it was the most basic of all drill movements, standing at attention. However, this doesn't mean one could just stand there like a telephone pole. The military has strict requirements for this stance as well. The key points for standing at attention are heels together and aligned, toes pointed outward at about a 60-degree angle, legs straight, abdomen slightly tucked in, chest naturally out, upper body straight, and slightly leaning forward. After Zhao Pengfei explained the key points and demonstrated, the training officially began. Many, including Qin Feng, had a misunderstanding about standing at attention. They thought this movement didn't require much skill, just having legs was enough. Additionally, unlike movements like marching or stepping, it didn't seem visually appealing. But once everyone strictly followed the standards and stood in this position for a while, they immediately understood why this movement is called the foundation of drill movements. At first, standing for a short time didn't feel too bad, but as time went on, various issues quickly arose. First and foremost, it was inevitable that sweat would drip into their eyes. At such times, you couldn't rub your eyes or even blink. Moving even slightly would break the stance. Although it wouldn't be like in martial arts dramas where one becomes possessed, it would definitely attract the attention of the formidable Zhao Pengfei. This guy seemed to have eyes in the back of his head, even if he turned his back. As long as you moved, he could lock onto you in an instant. And then, the punishment would follow. So at this moment, everyone could only think of themselves as cold stone statues. They kept reminding themselves in their minds, statues don't move, statues don't itch. And statues definitely don't feel like passing gas. But do you think that would be enough to ensure everything goes smoothly? No. Zhao Pengfei, that guy, would never allow them to stand there comfortably. He would occasionally sneak up behind the group, poking at their knees and tugging on their arms, checking to see who was slacking off. Those caught would have to do 20 push-ups, and once done, they had to stand right back up. Of course, some were clever, keeping an eye on the squad leader's movements. As soon as Zhao Pengfei walked past, they would relax a bit, trying to appear casual. The moment he turned around, they would immediately tense up. The expressions, the movements, the determined looks in their eyes could easily win an Oscar. But what if Zhao Pengfei decided to play dirty and circled behind them? They would then rely on the shadows on the ground to track his position and continue their previous tactics. Of course, there were times when they slipped up. Qi Ming was tricked into revealing his big move by a feint, and Zhao Pengfei generously ordered him to do 50 push-ups, saying there was no need to look for excuses. Squad leader, why do I have to do 50 when everyone else only does 20? Qi Ming asked. Struggling on the ground, Zhao Pengfei squatted beside him with a smile and asked, what's the most classic line from the movie Spider-Man? Qi Ming paused for a moment. With great power comes great responsibility? Exactly, Zhao Pengfei said, patting his head seriously. Those 20 push-ups are for others, but for you, a martial artist, 50 is just right. What do you think? Qi Ming couldn't help but feel frustrated. Is it wrong to have trained in martial arts? This is so unfair. The pain was the same, but the punishment was doubled. Although Qi Ming felt wronged, he had to accept it. Under the circumstances, Zhao Pengfei had 100 ways to make him regret speaking up, so he could only obediently accept his punishment. While Qi Ming finished his push-ups, the battle of wits between the new recruits and the veterans was far from over. Human nature tends to lean towards comfort. Who actually enjoys suffering? Once you start to enjoy hardship, from that moment on, you'll face endless challenges. Thus, various tricks to slack off during training began to fill the entire military posture training, with a level of creativity and subtlety that could rival any palace drama. However, as someone who had been through it all and was the one leading the training, Zhao Pengfei was clearly a step ahead. He somehow got a piece of grass and started walking around in front of everyone, teasing them. If he thought someone looked cool, he would poke at them with it. If they moved or laughed, they would have to drop down immediately for push-ups. Just like that, everyone in the 4th squad suffered greatly because of his antics. Perhaps it was because Qin Feng was too good-looking that he became Zhao Pengfei's target, facing punishment 20 times in a row. By the end of the 2-hour military posture training, he could hardly remember how many push-ups he had done. And watching Qin Feng being chosen again by the squad leader to be the one punished with push-ups felt like a twist of fate. Li Jiaxing felt incredibly pleased, as if he had just taken a big bite of ice cream. It's about time you showed off and caught the squad leader's attention. Luckily, I have good luck. You old lady. Zhao Pengfei noticed him chuckling to himself and immediately appeared in front of him. 2 blades of grass swiftly poked into his nostrils with lightning speed. Achoo! Achoo achoo achoo! The sudden tickling made Li Jiaxing sneeze repeatedly. His nose felt like it was about to fall off. Zhao Pengfei squinted his eyes and coldly stared at him. Looks like you're in a good mood. You can even smile while standing at attention. 50 push-ups. You have 90 seconds. If you can't finish, I'll add 10 more. Li Jiaxing, who was now facing 50 push-ups, was almost in tears. Damn it. Now he truly understood what it meant to go from joy to sorrow. At 4:30, everyone finally welcomed their break time. Zhao Pengfei and the other squad leaders went to the wall to smoke. Qin Feng took a sip of water and prepared to head to the restroom. But for some reason, Chen Sanqi and Qi Ming both followed him closely, one on each side. Generally speaking, boys don't go to the restroom together. Everyone usually goes on their own. Even if they accidentally run into each other in the restroom, they try to maintain distance. But why the hell were these two standing on either side of him, practically pinching him? Qin Feng looked to his right, seeing plenty of space over there. Why come here to warm up next to me? What do you two want? He. Chen Sanqi didn't say anything, just kept grinning foolishly. Qi Ming was the same, laughing like a simpleton. Qin Feng rolled his eyes. If you have something to say it. You two acting like clowns here. Are you going to let me pee or not? That's right. Qin Feng hated being watched while peeing. It made it hard to go. Qi Ming rubbed his hands together, smiling eagerly. I heard there are braised chicken legs in the cafeteria tonight. Could you get a few extra? I really love chicken legs. Me too. Chen Sanqi nodded vigorously, his smile radiating a foodie-esque sincerity. Qin Feng was speechless. All this fuss just for that. In the army, the dinner menu was generally similar to lunch, but occasionally, there would be 1 or 2 different dishes to change things up a bit. No problem, Qin Feng replied casually. but I can only do my best. After all, the other squads have learned their lessons, so there might be some competition tonight. It's fine, it's fine. If we can get some, that's great. If not, then it's whatever. In fact, both of them had this mindset. If they could get some, they would, but if not, they wouldn't mind. After all, it wasn't every meal that would be like today's lunch, with so much meat. But having a treat every once in a while was certainly enjoyable. This was also the mentality of most people in the army, which is why the competition for food during meal duty gradually became a tradition. At this age, joining the army, you could say they were honest, but you definitely couldn't say they were foolish. People always move forward through hardships and lessons learned. Qin Feng was not significantly smarter than everyone else. It was just that in his previous life, he had already encountered most of the pitfalls, coupled with decades of life experience. He felt like a seasoned expert entering a novice village after joining the military. Of course, while others were progressing, Qin Feng was also continuously advancing. For instance, during dinner that night, even though the other classes were on high alert, Qin Feng still had 100 ways to secure more meat, ensuring that his class had a better meal than the others. Thanks, you go ahead. We'll wait for you outside, they said with cheerful smiles as they walked away. They didn't need to go, they were just accompanying him. Although Qin Feng felt a bit speechless, he understood. There were no convenience stores in the new recruits' barracks, nor were there any late-night snacks. The 3 daily meals became the only source of energy for all the new recruits. Young men tend to eat quickly, get hungry quickly, and need to relieve themselves just as fast. Consuming more meat made it easier to withstand hunger and have more energy during training. It wasn't just the new recruits. Many veterans who had been in the military for years felt the same way. Life in the military was monotonous and tedious, filled with either training or intense training. Many would eat breakfast, look forward to lunch, have lunch, and anticipate dinner. After dinner, they would long for that bucket of instant noodles for a late-night snack. Food is essential to life, and craving meat is a natural sentiment. After finishing up, Qin Feng approached the sink and habitually washed his face. It helped remove the grease while also refreshing him. However, just as he turned to leave, he was suddenly blocked by someone entering from outside. Chapter 16. If you dare to act, I will make you go bankrupt. Squad leader, Qin Feng called out to the squad leader in front of him. Inside the restroom, saluting was quite inappropriate. A shout sufficed to acknowledge him. The squad leader, Yang Kaifeng, was a 4th-term non-commissioned officer, also known as a level 4 sergeant. He was also the class leader of the new recruits. Since the new recruits unit was temporary, the squad leader's position was held concurrently by the class leaders. Yang Kaifeng had an unfriendly expression, clearly not there for a restroom visit, but rather to stir up trouble. He held his combat belt in hand, slapping it against his thigh, looking somewhat menacing. What is your name? Report, my name is Qin Feng. Oh, Yang Kaifeng sneered, sizing him up, his face turning more furious. You're the one who took all the meat during lunch, leaving our class with nothing but chicken necks and heads? Qin Feng felt a sense of dread. He had run into trouble. He should have just said his name was Li Jejun. Report, it was me, he replied, maintaining his composure. Seeing Qin Feng's calm demeanor only fueled Yang Kaifeng's anger further. He jabbed his finger into Qin Feng's shoulder, reprimanding him without holding back. You've got some nerve, huh? Not only do you dare to act, but you also dare to admit it? Who taught you to behave like this as a new recruit? Do you even understand the rules of the military? Qin Feng stood straight, but did not respond. First of all, military discipline told him not to argue back with the veteran squad leader. Additionally, Qin Feng did not think he had done anything wrong. To put it in the words of a skit, if you're in the right, what is there to be afraid of? At such times, staying calm is better than acting rashly. Observing the situation is the best strategy. Of course, if that guy dared to take action against him because of this, Qin Feng would immediately lie down and make him pay dearly. Then he would call the squad leader to escalate the matter and see who would come out worse. Just then, Yang Kaifeng reached behind his back, seemingly indicating he wanted to swing his belt. Qin Feng immediately became alert, ready to dodge or lie down to make a scene. But then he saw Yang Kaifeng pull out a pack of cigarettes from his back pocket. He shook his wrist lightly, flicked one out, and offered it to him. Want one? Qin Feng was momentarily taken aback. What was this routine? Do veterans always act this politely before confronting someone? Seeing that he didn't take it, Yang Kaifeng smiled and simply lit one for himself. He then exhaled a cloud of smoke with a hint of provocation right into Qin Feng's face. Qin Feng's expression remained unchanged. He didn't even blink. He wanted to see what this guy was really up to. Yang Kaifeng, with a half-smile, looked very interested. So you're Qin Feng? I think your personality suits me well. How about transferring to my squad? Qin Feng remained silent and did not respond. He was wondering if this was a trap. Noticing the wariness in Qin Feng's gaze, Yang Kaifeng laughed heartily. On the first day of training, you dare to pull this in front of a veteran. You really are one of a kind. I like new recruits who have their own opinions and courage, just like I was back in the day. If you come to my squad, I'll take care of you. I can't guarantee the first place in the recruit company, but I can assure you a spot in the top 10. As for your squad leader, you don't need to worry about that. Just nod. And I'll handle it. As a sergeant major with 15 years in the military, Yang Kaifeng had seen countless new recruits and had his own way of assessing people. While other recruits were obediently following the routine, only Qin Feng dared to break the mold. Even with a veteran watching, he still acted that way. If no one was around, wouldn't he take everything back home? Such recruits are often bold yet attentive, and they have their own opinions. While other recruits treated fetching food as a task to complete, just to get the meal on the table. Only Qin Feng thought about getting extra meat for his squad so everyone could enjoy better food. Of course, it's also possible that Qin Feng just really liked to eat. Originally, Yang Kaifeng intended to intimidate him with some verbal warnings. But Qin Feng not only stood his ground but also confidently admitted to it, looking as if he was saying, "I did it. And what are you going to do about it?" Thinking back to the afternoon, when his own squad's recruit had been scolded by Qin Feng and almost cried, Yang Kaifeng immediately felt that Qin Feng was indeed someone of substance. Such soldiers often excel in other areas as well. Having them in a group brings nothing but benefits. However, when faced with Yang Kaifeng's invitation, Qin Feng rejected it without a second thought. "Sorry, squad leader, but I think our 4th squad is great. And I don't want to move to another squad." "Great?" Yang Kaifeng laughed. "Then why doesn't Zhao Pengfei even let you be a deputy squad leader? You probably aren't valued much in your squad, right?" Qin Feng was suddenly at a loss for words. He wasn't sure about being valued, but he had indeed actively declined the position of deputy squad leader. Seeing that Qin Feng remained silent, Yang Kaifeng assumed he was tacitly agreeing, further confirming his belief that Zhao Pengfei didn't recognize talent. "I won't pressure you. Think it over and give me an answer later. By the way, we don't have a candidate for deputy squad leader yet. The deputy squad leader in the 1st squad is quite different from those in other squads. As long as you are willing to come, the position is yours." After saying this, he smiled, patted Qin Feng on the back, and turned to leave. People strive for higher grounds, and water flows downward, rather than being unappreciated in the 4th squad. It would be better to come to the 1st squad and fully showcase one's abilities. Therefore, he believed that as long as Qin Feng wasn't foolish, he would know how to choose. However, this was merely Yang Kaifeng's one-sided wish. Qin Feng wasn't interested at all. He had no plans to leave, let alone change squads. Although the new recruits would only be together for a short 3 months before being assigned to different units, Qin Feng actually enjoyed the atmosphere of the 4th squad. Everyone had different personalities, but they were all pleasant to talk to and quite talented, especially that Li Jiaxing, who was like a good luck charm, always endearing to look at. Furthermore, Qin Feng had watched Soldier Assault and knew that betrayal was the biggest taboo in the military. In the show, when Cheng Kai secretly applied to transfer to another unit, he was doused with wine by the usually easygoing Shi Jin and was scorned by everyone in the Steel 7th Company. Qin Feng would never look at what others have and make such a foolish mistake. Qin Feng, just as he was about to walk out of the restroom, he suddenly heard someone calling him from behind. He turned around in surprise to see Li Jiaxing squatting at the last toilet stall, bare behind, clutching toilet paper, staring intently at him. Clearly, he had overheard the conversation between Qin Feng and the squad leader. "Come here, the deputy squad leader wants to talk to you." "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, just take care of your business." Qin Feng glanced at him, mouthed something, and directly turned to leave. Li Jiaxing, ignored, widened his eyes in shock, as if struck by 1,000 points of soul damage. He read Qin Feng's lips and deciphered the 3 words: big, silly, beep. Chapter 17, Your Attitude in Speaking. Brother Feng does not like it how bold, daring to disrespect the authority of the deputy squad leader. Li Jiaxing was so furious he was shaking all over, abandoning his business altogether. He tightened his muscles and hurriedly wiped himself, not even washing his hands before chasing after Qin Feng. "Qin Feng, stop. You better stop. Did the vice squad leader talk to you? Didn't you hear?" Qin Feng stopped, but behind him, Qi Ming and Chen Sanchi also turned around. Qi Ming glanced at Li Jiaxing, his brow furrowed in slight confusion. When did this guy go to the restroom? Chen Sanchi shook his head, not sure, didn't see or pay attention. "You guys go ahead. I'll have a chat with him." As soon as Qin Feng finished speaking, Qi Ming coughed and suddenly lowered his voice. "If this kid bothers you with nonsense, and his mouth is dirty, let me know. I'll find a chance to deal with him." Qin Feng looked at him in surprise, not understanding why he had such an idea. However, Qi Ming added, "Make sure to add a chicken leg." Qin Feng's eyelid twitched. In ancient times, there was a scholar who added money. "You're like the scholar who adds chicken legs." Chen Sanchi didn't dare to speak up. He wouldn't dare to get involved in such matters, even if he had 10 times the courage. Qin Feng waved the two away and then stood still, waiting for Li Jiaxing to come over. "Qin Feng, do you think too little of me?" Li Jiaxing asked angrily. "Yes," Qin Feng answered sincerely. But this left Li Jiaxing at a loss. "Can't you at least pretend a bit? You don't even bother to act?" "Qin Feng, why do you act so arrogantly every day? Why don't you regard me, the vice squad leader? Does your family own a mine? Have you traveled abroad? Have you worn LV? Have you watched Wolfpath or read Ghost Valley? What do you have to be proud of? What gives you the right to be so arrogant? Li Jiaxing launched into a tirade, but to Qin Feng's ears, it sounded like Qin Feng, blah blah blah, blah blah blah, nonstop, like a broken record. Qin Feng simply closed his ears, muting the scene. Li Jiaxing spoke until his mouth was dry, his face turning red. But then he thought, as a military officer, how could he get angry with an ordinary soldier? That would be beneath his dignity. So he softened his tone a bit, but still maintained a critical stance. Qin Feng, it's not that the vice squad leader is criticizing you. You first need to correct your attitude. If you ignore me, it's fine. I'm magnanimous and won't hold it against you. But how did you just speak to the squad leader? He is a military leader, clearly here to seek accountability. And instead of admitting your mistake, you were so brazen. What are you doing? You're openly going against military discipline. Really? Qin Feng feigned surprise. Remove that ma word from your vocabulary. Li Jiaxing said angrily, looking like an elder teaching a younger one. The vice squad leader has walked more paths than you have eaten salt. Do you think you understand the ways of the world better than me? Let me tell you, don't think that when the squad leader speaks to you like that, he is acknowledging you. He is actually pointing out your faults. Oh, Qin Feng responded nonchalantly, which only made Li Jiaxing more irritable. The vice squad leader is saying good things for your sake and for the good of our squad. Being a soldier is different from what you see on TV. Being a troublemaker will get you dealt with. I'm the best example. So, listening to the class vice captain, it's better to be a bit more low-key in our actions and interactions, and not always think so actively. We need to fit in. Ah, right. Qin Feng's extremely perfunctory attitude completely ignited Li Jiajun's anger. He pointed at Qin Feng, instantly resembling a fierce character. Qin Feng, I swear. But in the next second, he was grabbed by the collar and lifted up. The interruption of the spell was forceful. Qin Feng squinted his eyes and coldly stared at the close Li Jiajun. You better watch your mouth. That oppressive gaze sent a chill down Li Jiajun's spine, making him swallow back all the curses he was about to say. What do you want? Li Jiajun stammered, a bit flustered. I am telling you. This is on the playground. If you act recklessly, the class leader won't let you off. Qin Feng chuckled and pushed him away. Li Jiajun stumbled back 2 steps, losing his balance and fell to the ground. However, at this moment, the senior class leaders were gathered by the wall smoking and didn't notice the situation here. Qin Feng walked over, looking down at Li Jiajun who had fallen on his backside, and said in his Sodal, Li Jiajun, I'm glad you want to communicate about the issues. But I don't like your tone and attitude. Li Jiajun shivered, a chill rising from his backside. So domineering. Too domineering. Li Jiajun had originally been bluffing. But facing the assertive Qin Feng, he lost his composure. Qin Feng looked down at him. Li Jiajun, I know you have a lot of dissatisfaction with me, thinking I've overshadowed you in class and disrespected your authority as the vice captain. But I have to tell you, I'm here to serve, not to play these childish games with you. Put away your schoolyard king mentality. If you want to earn my respect, then show me your real skills, and make me convinced. Otherwise, just keep your mouth shut. Qin Feng's last sentence hit Li Jiajun like a bullet to the forehead, leaving his mind blank. Initially, he thought that just by becoming the vice captain and leading the new recruits, he could easily suppress Qin Feng. But at this moment, that initial feeling of fear and wanting to escape returned. He didn't understand why. Despite being peers, Qin Feng exuded such an overwhelming pressure. But before Li Jiajun could gather his thoughts, a hand had already pulled him up from the ground, even helpfully brushing off the dirt from his backside. Looking at Qin Feng's sunny smile, Li Jiajun was dumbfounded. He fell into a state of confusion and self-doubt. Are you okay? Did you hurt yourself? Qin Feng, showing no trace of pressure, instead smiled and asked with concern. Seeing the completely different Qin Feng from just a second ago, Li Jiajun swallowed hard and shook his head vigorously. And no, it's fine. Don't be afraid. Just as Qin Feng was about to put his arm around his shoulder, Li Jiajun instinctively shrank back in fear. But Qin Feng firmly held him in place, giving him no chance. First of all, the fact that we are in the same class and become comrades shows that we are destined to be together. Secondly, if you could lower your stance a bit, avoid preaching too much, and show off less, I would be more than happy to be friends with you. Really? Li Jiaxing looked at him incredulously. Qin Feng nodded, saying, Of course, we have no enmity between us. Just don't act like you're some high-quality person every day. Isn't it tiring to put on that facade? Li Jiaxing looked at him with a hint of fear, as if he had been stripped bare. His affluent background gave him a sense of superiority. At school, he could use money to become the object of admiration among his classmates. But after joining the military, his financial influence became completely ineffective, leaving him extremely uneasy. This was why Li Jiaxing felt the need to constantly emphasize his family's wealth and run for class leader to gain attention. As for his high-handed demeanor, he wanted to project authority as the vice class leader so that everyone would listen to him. But now, Qin Feng had ruthlessly torn away that facade, leaving him exposed and unable to escape. Qin Feng. Uh-huh. Li Jiaqing clenched his fists and said with great difficulty, in front of others. Could you please refrain from constantly humiliating me? Can you give me a little face? I'm begging you. He uttered the most submissive words in the strongest tone. Yet, Qin Feng just dug at his ear, seemingly not hearing him. Is this your attitude when asking for a favor? With such a lack of sincerity. It's hard for me to help you. Li Jiaqing felt incredibly frustrated. As the vice class leader, second only to the leader, he held considerable power. Now he found himself having to humbly plead with a new recruit in the class. He raised 2 fingers, 200. If we can go to the small supermarket later, I'll treat you to 200. Qin Feng glanced at him, but still said nothing. 500. 800. 1,000. Deal. Qin Feng shook his hand enthusiastically, smiling. Comrade Li Jiaqing, I promise to give you some leeway in the future and try to avoid humiliating you as much. Li Jiaqing responded with a grunt, feeling a bit wronged inside. You're so easily swayed by money. You should have said so earlier. After all, my family really does have wealth. We own a Maybach. It's true. Having been educated, Li Jiaqing appeared much more subdued now, following Qin Feng like a little follower. He even eagerly ran over to help Qin Feng with his water bottle. Not far away, Zhao Pengfei, who was squatting in the shade smoking, inadvertently witnessed this scene and was immediately stunned. He scratched his head with the hand holding the cigarette, his brow furrowing in disbelief. I can't believe I'm witnessing this. The vice class leader fetching water for Qin Feng? This vice class leader is totally failing at his job. Chapter 18. Class leader, don't worry. I promise not to beat you to death. 1. Huh. 2. Huh. On the training ground, which had been forcibly divided into 3 areas, the new recruits conducted physical training in groups. In the middle of the playground, all the recruits from the 3 classes of the second squad were lying on the ground doing push-ups. 1 command, 1 action, and it must be shouted out loud. What does 1 command, 1 action mean? It means that the squad leader calls out a number, and everyone performs 1 action in response to the command. If someone fails to complete their push-up or doesn't shout loudly enough, they will certainly face the wrath of their squad leader. Some may even receive a couple of kicks, followed by a few more reprimands. The purpose of this is to standardize the movements of the new recruits and train their obedience. A soldier not only needs to have ample physical strength, but also needs to understand what obedience means. A well-equipped unit may not necessarily win battles. However, a unit that understands obedience and has strict discipline will surely be invincible. Whether it's a march of 25,000 miles, crossing the Red River 4 times, or facing the Allied forces from 17 countries on the snow-capped mountains, it fully showcases the extraordinary obedience and cohesion of the soldiers. This is all experience summarized from numerous victories by our ancestors. Li Jinsheng, why are you raising your butt so high? Are you trying to take a dump or just fart? Chen Sanchi, why is your arm shaking? Keep your body down. I told you to lower your body, not to lie flat. Qimeng, who the hell told you to do it that fast? Are you in a hurry to reincarnate? Zhao Pengfei patrolled while unleashing a stream of colorful language at the new recruits, wielding a training belt. Including Qin Feng, everyone got a couple of smacks on their backsides. Qin Feng cursed internally, thinking, is it not enough that I'm doing it incorrectly? Now you're hitting me for doing it right? Damn it. One day when I become your leader, I'll make sure you taste this too. At the scene, many shared Qin Feng's sentiments. Many recruits come in with the mindset of being a grandson for a year, then a master the next. But the actual situation is quite different. Only those who are capable and perform well can become the masters in the second year. Those without capability are at most like a standing dog. Although it's a bit exaggerated, in the military, which relies purely on hard power, this is the reality. The phrase survival of the fittest applies here as well. At this moment, the most annoyed in the 4th squad was Qimeng. Due to suspected showboating, Zhao Pengfei's training belt nearly left his backside swollen. Qin Feng estimated that his raised, but could support a 1,250 milliliters bottle of soda. Although Qimeng was lean, he had trained in martial arts. So he was decent in strength, muscle control, and coordination. He joined the army purely to push his limits and become stronger. Thus, in his eyes, many veterans were just those who had stayed in the army a bit longer without any real skills. They only knew how to intimidate new recruits with punishments and verbal threats that didn't hold much weight. 20 minutes later, the 100 push-ups were finally completed. Almost all the new recruits in the 2nd squad were exhausted and sprawled on the ground. Normally, doing 100 push-ups is already quite strenuous, let alone in this 1 command, 1 action format. Moreover, the squad leader intentionally made jokes during the training, pretending to forget where he had counted to. As the count reached 80, it suddenly jumped back to 60. So, while it was said to be 100 push-ups, everyone actually did at least 160 or 70. Fortunately, the 2nd squad leader didn't immediately start the next training session, but allowed everyone to rest in place for 10 minutes. During the break, the 5th squad leader demonstrated a set of military body exercises, which generated a lot of applause from the crowd. Soon after, The new recruits from the 4th Squad began to cheer for Zhao Pengfei to show his skills as well, perhaps not wanting to be outdone by the 5th Squad leader. Zhao Pengfei deliberately chose a more aggressive martial art style. In the military, besides body exercises, there are many other combat techniques, such as grappling and capture techniques. The set I'm about to perform is called the Black Dragon 18 Hands. Upon hearing this, all the new recruits' eyes lit up. Clearly, everyone had heard of the notorious reputation of the Black Dragon 18 Hands. Why is it so famous? It is said that this fighting technique was banned due to its insidious moves and high lethality. However, people often have a stronger curiosity about taboo subjects. It's like knowing that one must undergo self-castration to practice a certain skill, yet the allure still attracts countless martial artists. In front of the group, Zhao Pengfei's expression turned fierce, and he suddenly exuded an intimidating aura. He swiftly stepped to the left while delivering a knee strike with his right and executed a left palm strike forward. This move is known as the Azure Dragon's Claw, capable of disarming an opponent. Following that, he performed a series of techniques, each more powerful than the last, showcasing an impressive display of skill. His moves were almost all aimed at critical points, demonstrating a high level of practicality in combat. Qin Feng watched intently, highly intrigued by this fierce and domineering fighting style. However, strictly speaking, this set of moves does not belong to Old Liu but was created by the armed police unit from a certain province, hence the name Black Dragon 18 Hands. Although it was banned later due to its ferocity and lethality, many veterans have secretly learned it. The reason is simple: it is indeed effective in fights, especially during competitions. A couple of moves could potentially turn the tide in one's favor. After all, from a practical standpoint, the Black Dragon 18 Hands are certainly more lethal compared to military body exercises or grappling techniques. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been officially prohibited. Of course, if one wishes to learn, there are plenty of instructional videos available online. Those interested can search for them. Zhao Pengfei learned by following videos online and had indeed applied it in real combat several times with significant results. Qin Feng suddenly felt a rush of excitement. If he mastered this, his combat effectiveness would skyrocket. Just wait, I'll see who dares to challenge him, and I'll teach them a lesson. Once Zhao Pengfei finished all his moves and took a deep breath, the crowd erupted with thunderous applause. All the new recruits from the 2nd Squad were excitedly clapping, especially those from the 4th Squad, who were applauding so hard their hands turned red. Zhao Pengfei's performance was indeed much more visually impressive than the military body exercises demonstrated by the 5th Squad leader. This made everyone feel like they were being overshadowed by Class 5 without realizing it, which left the new recruits of Class 5 quite unhappy. Watching Zhao Pengfei's somewhat smug expression, Class 5's leader was almost furious. He pulled Zhao Pengfei aside and said through gritted teeth, "Zhao Pengfei, you really are something. Aren't you? I'm doing military boxing, and you come out with those fancy moves. Aren't you just trying to undermine me? Really? I don't think so." Zhao Pengfei shrugged, looking innocent. Even the leader of Class 6, who also served as the 2nd platoon leader, couldn't hold back. "Old Zhao, you're really going a bit too far. We are the army, and you're using moves from the armed police. What is that about? Isn't that prohibited?" "What do you mean prohibited?" Zhao Pengfei was instantly displeased. "It's just been cancelled, and there are more people in our regiment who know it besides me. The last time I passed by your company, I saw your 3rd platoon leader teaching it." The 2nd platoon leader felt a bit embarrassed. It was true that many people practice this, but you can practice all you want. Showing it off in front of so many people is a bit much. Class 5's leader is doing military boxing because that's what the new recruits need to learn. What you're doing is clearly beyond the syllabus. This isn't something new recruits should be learning. But Zhao Pengfei didn't care. They were all soldiers. Whether they were from the regular army or the armed police didn't matter as long as it looked good. After all, in terms of applause and momentum, he completely overshadowed Class 5's leader, which really frustrated him. "Hey, Qimeng, aren't you a martial arts practitioner? Can you take on the leader?" Someone suddenly prodded. "Are you kidding? The leader has real skills. Those moves from martial arts school are just routines. How could he possibly compete?" Qimeng was displeased at this comment. "You guys don't understand anything. I've learned real martial arts, not just flashy moves." Li Jiaxing scoffed and rolled his eyes. "Talk is cheap. Who knows if you're just bragging?" Provoked by Li Jiaxing, Qimeng's anger surged, and he stood up suddenly. "Leader, I want to spar with you." Upon hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up, whether they were new recruits or veterans. They looked like spectators eager for a show. Zhao Pengfei squinted. He knew Qimeng had trained in martial arts for a few years, so he had a high opinion of himself. He was definitely feeling competitive and wanted to challenge him. After all, this kid had said during self-introductions yesterday that he wanted to test his skills against veterans. This was a perfect opportunity for Zhao Pengfei to gauge Qimeng's abilities. Moreover, with so many people watching, if he refused, others might think he, as a veteran leader, was afraid to compete. "All right, no problem. But let us agree beforehand. It'll just be a simple spar, and we'll stop when it's enough. Qi Ming grinned. Don't worry, leader. I'll go easy on you and try not to hurt you. As soon as he said this, the scene went silent. All the new recruits stared in disbelief, their minds racing with the thought of self-destruction. The second platoon leader and Class 5's leader exchanged glances, clearly ready to enjoy the spectacle. Zhao Pengfei's expression had turned somewhat cold at this moment. This kid really didn't know the limits. He glanced at the class leader's darkening face, and then at Qi Ming's inexplicable confidence. Qin Feng had a premonition. He felt that Qi Ming was likely to get beaten badly soon. Chapter 19. Stop it, Qi Ming. Let me take over. Qi Ming stepped up to Zhao Pengfei. Taking a stance. Double clash. Dust off. He performed a fist salute towards his opponent. Then, Qi Ming took a big step forward with his left foot, while his back foot remained still, his hands forming the bow and arrow posture. Baji Quan. Zhao Pengfei was slightly surprised. He instantly recognized Qi Ming's starting position as Baji Quan. This martial art is well known in the martial arts community, celebrated for its speed and power. Historically, there has been a saying that literature brings peace with Tai Chi, while martial arts establish order with Baji. This shows just how esteemed Baji Quan is in the martial arts world. Zhao Pengfei, with his sharp eye, could tell from this initial movement that Qi Ming's title of two-time city-level martial arts runner-up was definitely not unfounded. There was indeed some real skill there. However, that alone was not enough. The military was full of hidden talents, and the depth of skill was far beyond what one might imagine. Qin Feng naturally knew that Qi Ming was bound to get hit, but at this moment, he couldn't advise him otherwise. This was because Qi Ming had mentioned upon arrival that he wanted to challenge a veteran and push his limits. For Qi Ming, this was also an opportunity. People often grow in adversity. The harsher the fall, the higher the rise. However, the biggest beneficiary at this moment was actually Qin Feng. Whether it was Baji Quan or Black Dragon 18 Hands, both were practical combat techniques. If he mastered both, it would be incredibly impressive. To express his gratitude, Qin Feng made a cross in his heart and silently offered a moment of respect for Qi Ming. Go Class 4. Come on, take down your class leader. Qi Ming. We believe in you, go for it. Apart from Class 4, many other new recruits were cheering for Qi Ming. This was not just a clash of traditional martial arts and modern combat techniques, but also a challenge from the rookies to the veterans. Although most knew that Qi Ming's chances of winning were slim, they still hoped to see him take Zhao Pengfei down. As Qi Ming represented the newcomers, everyone naturally hoped their side would win. The cheers and encouragement from the crowd raised Qi Ming's confidence to its peak, but they also brought him immense pressure. At this moment, he felt like he was being elevated high up. Therefore, he couldn't afford to lose, nor could he. In contrast, Zhao Pengfei remained calm and composed. He smiled and beckoned Qi Ming with a finger. Come on, hurry up, we still have training later. All right, Qi Ming replied, charging forward. He gathered strength in his right hand and struck towards Zhao Pengfei's chest like a piercing arrow. However, with years of combat experience in the military, how could Zhao Pengfei let him land such a hit so easily? He swiftly dodged to the right, easily avoiding the punch. Just as he dodged the previous attack, Qi Ming's elbow strike came up like a shadow. This move, known as the heart-pushing elbow, utilized power from the waist, making it far more powerful than the previous punch. What a tough move. Zhao Pengfei put away his smile, no longer playing around. He bent down and delivered a hook punch straight to Qi Ming's stomach. The pain caused Qi Ming to take 2 steps back, immediately clutching his abdomen and squatting down. From the pained expression on Qi Ming's face, it was clear that Zhao Pengfei's punch was no light hit. So what do you say? Are you convinced, or should we go again? Not convinced. Let's go again. Qi Ming immediately got back up from the ground. He moved his neck and arms a bit, charging forward again. But this time, his speed was noticeably faster, and his punches were even fiercer. The style of Bajiquan emphasizes close-range explosive power. The closer the fight, the harder the hits. However, Zhao Pengfei was clearly not to be underestimated either. Employing the Black Dragon 18 techniques, he countered each move with equal force. By this time, everyone had noticed that the atmosphere at the scene was becoming increasingly tense. A thick scent of gunpowder lingered around them. They had initially agreed to spar lightly, but both were hitting harder and harder, showing no signs of holding back. Zhao Pengfei was holding up fine, having taken a few hits without serious injury. In contrast, Qi Ming kept getting knocked down but stubbornly got back up each time, like a cockroach that wouldn't die. Even with blood trickling from the corner of his mouth, he just wiped it off and kept going. To be honest, their fight was quite exhilarating. Both were employing real skills, with every punch landing solidly. But if this continued, while Zhao Pengfei might be fine, Qi Ming would likely end up in the hospital. Oh no, the class leader and Qi Ming are getting too heated. What should we do? Should we intervene? How do we intervene? Whoever steps in will just get beaten up. I don't want to die. Li Ban, why don't you go and try to mediate? At that moment, many from Class 4 looked towards Li Jiaqing, but Li Jiaqing was hesitant. Stepping in at this time would just mean getting hit. He immediately clutched his stomach, pretending to be in pain. claiming he must have eaten something bad at lunch and really needed to use the restroom. This earned him a round of eye rolls from the crowd. Seeing everyone turn their heads away, Li Jiaqing secretly let out a sigh of relief. Damn it, being a class leader is too hard. The risk is too high. At this moment, Qin Feng's eyes sparkled as he furiously recorded the details of their fight. In fact, according to the system, the harder they fought, the more practical experience he could gain. However, Qin Feng frowned, realizing that if this continued, something serious might happen. With a loud bang, Qi Ming was once again sent flying, crashing to the ground. Zhao Pengfei looked at him with a mocking smile. Now you should. But just then, Qi Ming slammed his fist into the ground and pushed himself up. He stomped his right foot down and let out a roar, charging sideways at Zhao Pengfei like a cannonball. This was the most famous move in Bejiquan, the Iron Mountain Lean. It was incredibly domineering and struck with swift power. Caught off guard, Zhao Pengfei took the hit head-on. The whole person took several steps back. Even breathing became difficult. Feeling a burning pain in his chest, Zhao Pengfei was completely enraged at this moment. Damn it, a rookie dares to play this game with me? If I don't teach you a lesson, all these years in the military would be for nothing. At this moment, everyone in the second squad widened their eyes, shocked into silence. They clearly didn't expect Qi Ming to last so long against Zhao Pengfei and to make him suffer such a huge loss. At this point, it was no longer just a sparring match. The two were like they were forcibly placed on a fire. It was about determining the victor and the loser. Zhao Pengfei no longer held back and began to take the initiative to attack. A move to blind and strike at the throat instantly incapacitated Qi Ming. Then, with a powerful kick to the chest, Qi Ming let out a cry and flew backward like a kite with a broken string. His back hit the ground hard, making a dull thud. Silence. Utter silence. Watching Qi Ming lying on the ground, unable to get up from the pain, all the rookies held their breath. The two veterans nearby squinted, and no one spoke. Zhao Pengfei's chest heaved as he gasped for air. At this moment, his anger had dissipated somewhat. He also realized that he might have been too heavy-handed, but he couldn't really blame himself. After all, Qi Ming came at him like a mad dog, attacking relentlessly and fiercely. However, this time, this kid should have learned his lesson. But Qi Ming, clutching his chest and with a fierce expression, got up from the ground. Originally, he thought that with his skills, even if he couldn't easily defeat the squad leader, at least he could have a back-and-forth exchange, handling it with ease. To his utter disbelief, in front of so many people, he was beaten to the ground like a dog. The strong sense of disparity filled Qi Ming with deep resentment and anger. He didn't want to lose, especially not so miserably, even if it was just once. Even if he could just knock Zhao Pengfei down once. Seeing Qi Ming's bloodshot eyes, Zhao Pengfei felt a twitch in his eyelids, and his scalp went numb. He knew this kid was completely fired up. At this point, even if he pinned Qi Ming to the ground, it wouldn't help unless he dislocated his arm. But Zhao Pengfei wasn't stupid. Why would he want to dislocate someone's arm while leading the troops? He didn't want to make a mistake and get punished, being sent back to his old unit. Damn it, is this kid a stubborn donkey? Even after being beaten to such a state, he still wants to come at me? Zhao Pengfei thought about just calling it a draw or admitting defeat. But with so many people watching, how could he not be able to handle a rookie? How could he establish authority in front of the new recruits and carry out future training? Moreover, if the company commander found out, he would definitely be scolded severely. If he couldn't subdue a new recruit and ended up losing or settling for a draw, what kind of leader would he be? Damn, Zhao Pengfei was feeling quite irritable at this moment. The battle had taken a turn, leaving him feeling trapped. Forget it. If worse comes to worst, I'll just hold this kid down for now. If he doesn't behave later, I'll break one of his fingers. Admitting defeat or calling it a draw was absolutely unacceptable to Zhao Pengfei, so Qi Ming had to be sacrificed. Just as Qi Ming was roaring and preparing to charge at him again, suddenly, a hand gripped his shoulder tightly. Immediately after, a cold voice rang out from behind. Enough. You can't beat him. Chapter 20 want to learn? I'll teach you if you want. Let go. Qi Ming was filled with rage, his reason overtaken by anger. And he couldn't hear the advice at all. But Qin Feng still held onto his shoulder and pulled him back forcefully. I told you to let go, it hurts. Just as Qi Ming, furious and embarrassed, was about to take action against him, Qin Feng quickly struck him with an elbow to the chest. Qi Ming had just taken a heavy kick from Zhao Pengfei to the same spot, and now being hit by Qin Feng like this made him wince in pain, almost bringing him to tears. Qin Feng, you. Qin Feng glared at him coldly. What makes you think that the few moves you learned in martial arts school can take down a veteran who has endured hardships for over 10 years in the army? You're already hurt like this and still want to fight. Do you want to be carried to the hospital or beaten to death? Qi Ming was at a loss for words. He knew Qin Feng was right. He had trained hard in martial arts school, but others had not been idle in the army. A seasoned soldier could easily master advanced techniques, which indicated that this guy was definitely not easy to deal with. If it had been a second-year soldier or an ordinary rookie officer fighting him, he would have probably been knocked down already. But Zhao Pengfei's level was clearly beyond what Qi Ming could handle now. However, he had made a bold statement earlier, and now with his face swollen. Qi Ming didn't want to win anymore. He just wanted to take Zhao Pengfei down once to regain his face. Qin Feng, I know you mean well, but you don't need to get involved in this. Unless he breaks my arm or really sends me to the hospital, I won't give in, even in death. Fine, that is what you say. Qin Feng pointed at him, then turned to shout towards Zhao Pengfei. Squad leader, he says he has given up. He can't beat you and admits defeat. What? Qi Ming immediately panicked. I said I'm not giving in. But just as he was about to argue, Qin Feng firmly pressed his mouth shut. Then, with a sweep of his leg and a knee strike, he forced Qi Ming down to the ground. Although Qin Feng's actions were not perfectly executed as he was just learning, Qi Ming was already battered and bruised, lacking any ability to resist. Qin Feng's intention to help him was also to prevent a situation where both would end up worse off. If they continued to fight, either Qi Ming would end up with broken bones and in the hospital, or Zhao Pengfei would face consequences. But the latter was utterly impossible. The military respected strength and revered the strong. A veteran from the third phase, publicly admitting that he can't beat a rookie, would definitely be laughed at by everyone. This would make it tough for Zhao Pengfei, the squad leader, and the fourth squad would certainly face difficult times ahead. Plus, Qi Ming is not bad, he's straightforward. Qin Feng was thinking of practicing Bejiquan with him later. So, at this moment, lending a hand is helpful. Qin Feng pressed his knee firmly against Qi Ming's chest, his sharp gaze warning him to behave. Then he turned with a smile towards Zhao Pengfei. Squad leader, Qi Ming admits defeat. Look, he can barely stand. Seeing this scene, Zhao Pengfei finally let out a huge sigh of relief. Just now, when Qin Feng grabbed Qi Ming, he was really startled. He thought Qin Feng was going to say, "Enough, you can't beat the squad leader, let me take over." Although he wasn't clear about Qin Feng's abilities, he was pretty sure that he couldn't beat him. What was originally supposed to be a friendly spar had changed in nature. If Zhao Pengfei injured both of them, he would be in trouble too. After all, it's not like it was 10 years ago. Scientific training methods strictly prohibit hitting, scolding, or corporal punishment, which are being continuously implemented. If he injured 2 new recruits right at the start of their training, he would definitely face consequences. Not to mention the possibility of being reported to the entire regiment. At that time, Gu Xiong would surely make him pay dearly. Fortunately, the situation was now under control. Not only did Qin Feng manage to persuade the stubborn Qi Ming, but he also successfully provided himself a way out, saving face in public. Zhao Pengfei felt grateful to Qin Feng. He smiled and walked over, extending his hand to Qi Ming, who was lying on the ground. Qi Ming, you really are something. This Bejiquan is impressive. Even I almost couldn't handle it. If you practice for another 2 or 3 years, I might not be your match. Qi Ming was taken aback for a moment. Then he grasped Zhao Pengfei's hand. Zhao Pengfei helped him up and asked with concern if he was hurt anywhere. Faced with the squad leader's concern, Qi Ming, who had calmed down, felt a bit flustered. It was Qin Feng who nudged him, prompting him to quickly say, "Squad leader, I can't beat you. I admit defeat." Zhao Pengfei laughed and pointed at him. "You weren't saying that just now, were you? You even said you would go easy on me." Qi Ming's face turned red with shame. "Just now, I was too cocky and didn't realize my own limits." "Ha. It's fine. It's not a big deal, better late than never. But I was really panicking earlier. It's okay. Even during boxing matches, people can get too heated. It's not your fault." "Thank you, squad leader. By the way, can you teach me that set of Black Dragon 18 hands later? You want to learn?" "Yes." Qi Ming thought he would say, "Sure, I'll teach you." But Zhao Pengfei shook his head. "New recruits can't learn this. However, if you perform well in the future, I might consider teaching you. But in exchange, I want to learn a bit of your Bejiquan too. Especially that Taishan. Damn it, my chest still hurts." Looking at Zhao Pengfei rubbing his chest and slurping, Qi Ming couldn't help but laugh. It was a moment of feeling honored despite the defeat. Even if they lost, at least they managed to inflict some damage. This showed that all those years of training weren't in vain. A gentle breeze blew, dispersing the gunpowder smell in the air. No one was panicking, and no one was exchanging harsh words. What remained was the mutual respect among martial artists. The noble spirit of friendship through martial arts seemed to be witnessed at this moment. Watching Zhao Pengfei and Qi Ming smiling, it felt as if nothing had happened just moments ago. The new recruits from Class 4 all felt a surreal sense of disbelief. But everyone knew that it was all thanks to Qin Feng. He managed to hold down the rampaging Qi Ming and control the situation in time. Li Jiajing looked deeply at Qin Feng, feeling no jealousy anymore. When someone is on par with you, you might feel jealous. But when they are far superior, that jealousy turns into admiration. Although Qin Feng was also a new recruit like him, of similar age, his skills were on a completely different level. He now understood why he felt intimidated when he first met Qin Feng. Because this guy had been looking down at him from a position of superiority from the very beginning. Honestly, in that situation, Li Jiajing would never have dared to provoke Qi Ming. He feared that Qi Ming would lash out and beat him up too. I really can't compare to him. Li Jiajing sighed inwardly. However, he definitely didn't come from a wealthy family, and he certainly didn't have a luxury car. With the boost of a psychological victory, Li Jiajing managed to regain a little face for himself. On the training ground, the first and third squads were also paying attention to the situation. But since they were a bit far away, most of them were unclear about what exactly happened. They only knew that a new recruit from Class 4 seemed to have challenged the squad leader and got thoroughly beaten. This made the new recruits from the first and third squads tense up, fearing the worst. The little shift in Class 4 was known for being sneaky. Now, how could such a fierce person dare to fight with a veteran? No way. From now on, they had to keep their distance in the cafeteria, or they might end up getting beaten. Meanwhile, the ones with the most complex expressions were the second squad leader and the fifth squad leader, who were watching everything unfold. Initially, they were ready to watch Zhao Pengfei's embarrassment. This kind of dilemma was not easy to resolve, even for them. After all, it was rare for a new recruit to be as stubborn as a cockroach, refusing to back down. But they didn't